you.
We need to give you better with longer appointment times, including same-day and next-day appointments.
Everyone gets their own personal care team. Whether it's doctors, nurses, social workers, mental health support, even someone to help me understand my Medicare benefits. They all work together for me, myself, and I. Not to mention a 24/7 patient support line. We customize the plan for him, and we can do the same for you.
Getting the care you need, then work together, and it will all help.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're calling to order the regular meeting of the City Council, City of Jackson, Mississippi, August the 15th, 2023, at 10 a.m. here at City Hall. We are going to have the privilege of having the invocation said by Pastor Christopher Bernard Wheatley of Relevant Church, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
Shall we pray? Eternal God, our Father, in the precious name of Jesus, we extol and magnify you today. It is from the rising of the sun to the setting of the same that your name and your name alone is worthy to be praised. God, we come thanking you for another day's journey. We're asking for your blessings upon this meeting. And Father, we ask that even more that every decision and everything that takes place be to your glory and for the good of all of the citizens of Jackson. Father, we just ask that even more that you would unite the council and the city would be united. And Father, we will be a united front for the nations to see. Bless this time together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Pastor Wheatley, for that wonderful invocation and getting our meeting started off properly. Thank you. Colleagues, as you may have guessed by now, I'm filling in. Councilman Banks is running late. He has had a very sad tragedy in his family, and I want to open the meeting in memory of his brother-in-law, George Laird. Mr. Banks does hope to join us as soon as possible in the meeting. Colleagues, any other announcements at this time? It looks like we don't have a quorum, but we do, because joining us online is Councilman Stokes. Good morning, Mr. Stokes. And then also—
Good morning, Madam President.
Thank you. We're glad you're with us. And then also we have joining us today by Life-Size Vice President Angelique Lee.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lindsay. I'm sorry I was not able to be there in person today.
We're thinking of you too. Dr. Omari.
Good morning. I'd like to extend the administration's condolences to Councilman Banks on his loss. I'd also like to congratulate Municipal Clerk Angela Harris on obtaining her Master Municipal Clerk designation from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And this is the highest designation offered by the Institute.
Congratulations. Thank you. Colleagues, any other announcements this morning? All right, we're going to move forward. It goes without saying that I'm a little rusty, but we're going to get through this together, right? Okay, so first on the agenda is we have a public hearing, and colleagues, you know that this doesn't require any immediate action from us, and so would the clerk please get it on the floor?
Ordinance of the City Council of Jackson, Mississippi, officially naming the Jackson Police Department building located at 327 East Pascagoula Street to Chief Sheriff Lee Dan Vance Jr. Municipal Court Building in Jackson Police Department in honor of the life and legacy of Lee Dan Vance Jr.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this Mr. Stokes, would you like to open up by saying a few words?
Yes, ma'am. I'd be glad to. Thank you so much. Madam President, some of the family members should be there. What we are trying to do is make sure that we show the true respect for a true police officer, a person who put God first and family and the police department in perspective. This young man gave up his life in terms of working, almost worked himself to death, as some of the old people used to say, for the city of Jackson, for the police department, where he became sheriff. He's a law enforcement person at heart, and to honor him with this designation would be a step in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so we have with us today some family members, but we have, you know, the relative who's following closest in his footsteps. And so would you like to say a few words?
Hey, good
And
morning.
please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Captain Christian Vance, Director of Training, JPD. I originally came for another reason, but Little Lee, some people call him Northside Lee Vance, called me as I walked in and wanted me to stand in for the family. I most definitely echo the words of Councilman Stokes. The way to change home is through homegrown heroes, and Lee Dan Vance is definitely a homegrown hero. There's no doubt about it. I was once in a parade, and we were walking in the parade, and everybody was, "Hey, Vance, what's up? Hey, Vance." I'm waving. I said, many folk love me, but they weren't speaking to me. They were talking to the late, great Chief Sheriff Lee Vance, and there's no way, no better way to honor our heroes than to honor them posthumously, and for things to go on in their name, and for the people who represent what they represented to come and go in a building named after them. So I am pleased and proud to represent the Vance family, as I'm always pleased and proud to represent JPD. And I thank Councilman Stokes for his thoughts and consideration on behalf of the Vance family. And God bless you guys.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? How many, if there are there other members of the family here?
Not currently.
Okay, thank
I
you.
got a call at the last minute. Lil Lee's got some catering event he had going on.
Okay.
But I am always pleased. Like early this year, Councilman Stokes awarded me with the first ever Lee D. Vance Leadership Award, and it meant a whole lot to me. And I never decorate my offices because it's JPD. I sometimes get moved around, but I always keep that with me. That's the one thing I take with me because it means a whole lot. Because it's named after somebody who loved the city like a living, breathing person, so I'm sorry, the mic is tired of me. But yet again, I'm proud and pleased and humbled by the consideration.
Thank you so much, and we certainly miss him every day. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this renaming? All right, hearing none, what is this actual agenda item, ladies? 17.
17.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Let's go ahead and take up item number 17, colleagues. With the clerk, get it on the floor.
Ordinance of the City Council of Jackson, Mississippi, officially naming the Jackson Police Department building located at 327 East Pascagoula Street to Chief Sheriff Lee Dan Vance Jr. Municipal Court Building and Jackson Police Department in honor of the life and legacy of Lee Dan Vance Jr.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And let Mr. Stokes make the motion on that. Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. It's a vote of 5-0. Thank you very much. We will now move on, colleagues, back to the public comments. We only have one public comment today. Joseph Holliday, and he's here to speak on item number 45. Mr. Holliday, are you in? Okay, please come to the mic. You have 3 minutes, and be sure to state your name for the record. You come over here. It'll take you a minute. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the Jackson Resource Center, we're here today to thank you all for this opportunity, the support from the City Council and the City of Jackson. And the Jackson Resource Center, I'm one of many, the Jackson Resource family, we're here. And the Jackson Resource Center is where dreams are within reach. It is to be a multifaceted housing organization devoted to forming on and off-site partnerships that reduces homelessness and creates sustainable communities through quality and affordable housing, continued education, job skills training, and accessible social and medical services. So we know in the city of Jackson, often we hear about all of the hopelessness and the things that we deal with as a city. We know that homelessness is one of our top priority issues in this city that we all hold dear to our hearts. And what the Jackson Resource Center has done is answer to that call. We have our CEO, Ms. Bartolomew White here, whom started grassroots in the community, feeding the homeless in Poindexter Park, and God gave her a vision to expand that and say, there's a need for this city, and she answered that need. And she has gathered people like myself. We have pastors, we have people from different walks of life, and what we want to do is offer services. We don't want to complain and talk about what's not being done. We want to be proactive and be involved in that process of giving the homeless a better quality of life. Those that are challenged, and anyone can fall down, but it's about getting back up again. Again, we thank you all for this opportunity for us to serve. We're here to serve. We're here to be God's hands and feet in these efforts and in our battle against homelessness in the city of Jackson. Many of our people's families, we have ripple effects of homelessness produces criminal activity. It's the crime, mental health. It's a whole bunch that goes in and is a result of homelessness. So again, I would like to thank the Jackson Resource Center for allowing me and so many of us to be a part of this movement to give our city a better chance than it has before, to create opportunities for those that truly need opportunities. God wanted all of us to have a foundation. We all should have shelter. And too many of our Jacksonians are dying homeless only to realize that they had not yet lived. So again, we thank the council, the city of Jackson, and everyone that supports us in this movement to help God's children. We are the body of Christ, and we're proud for this opportunity. Thank you, the Jackson Resource Center.
Thank you so much. Sir, hang on just a minute. Mr. Hartley has a question. Mr. Hartley?
First of all, I've been over to the Langley Center. Is this picking up? Okay. I've been over to the Langley Center, and it looks like it's a very holistic environment for recovery and moving on.
Yes, sir.
Over in my area, I'm continuing to see homeless folks coming in from the interstate and wandering through our neighborhoods.
Yes.
And that's a big concern of mine.
Yes.
A lot of these folks aren't from Jackson.
Yes.
A lot of these folks are from wherever their ride drop them off at. And I'm wondering, what are you all seeing as far as the folks from local people versus folks wandering in and wandering down our streets? What are you seeing? Is there a large amount of local people that's serviced by your the Langley Street operation?
Yes, absolutely. And not only we're concerned with what we have at Langley, but we saw the need in the expansion of homelessness throughout the city. And what the Jackson Resource Center has done to answer that call is to expand from Langley to we have what we call the Yellow House, where we provide services for young ladies that are 18 to 22 who may be homeless or displaced with children or pregnant. And we also have the Capers that is under construction now, 18 acres of land where we'll have a small city in the city where we can get the majority of the homelessness into a safe environment that's more proactive and productive and secure for our entire city. So we have a place under construction where we want to go and welcome all the services and the people that are homeless into Capers that should be completed in 2025.
Okay, and a couple of questions from that. First of all, it's important that you get the community input
Yes.
before we spread this, the footprint.
Yes.
West Jackson has a tremendous amount of homeless folks. And the second part is that we need to spread the love, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
Ward 5 and Ward 3 should not be the only wards with the predominance of homeless folks in homeless facilities.
Yes.
So we need to get it around, not just because a lot of folks over in West Jackson are in bad way themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so that's what I would ask you and your organization is to consider that. Number one, making sure that the community is abreast, aware, and supportive. And the second thing is make sure you spread it around to other wards. We don't want West Jackson to be homeless central for the city of Jackson or the state of Mississippi. Thank you.
And thank you. And if I may, we also, what we do is we are proactive in the community. We provide services for our neighbors in terms of landscaping. We're not just confined to West Jackson. We want to serve our entire city. And with that being said, we also provide food services for those that are, dealing with food insecurity. So we are here and at the service of our entire city as a whole, and we thank you all for that opportunity.
And I appreciate it. And again, please consider having another facility in another part of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your coming before us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Madam President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stokes.
Madam President, thank you so much. I just want to thank Councilman Hartley for his statement, his words that he mentioned, because it seemed like wards 3 and 5, we're just being bombarded with homeless people. I would say we would be the only ones, but if you go down the interstate now, another part of my ward around Chastain, they under the bridges and everything else at I-55. But my concern, and I don't want to knock against homeless because we all one step away from homelessness, but I'm concerned about Capers, and I didn't voice it because I support Director Dawson, what she's trying to do. She got a big problem, and she's trying to work her hardest to solve it. We have the Boys Club over there, and I'm concerned about, are we going to lose the Boys Club once this new homeless facility is built? Some of the homeless people have not only mental illness, but they have sexual problems, and I would hate to think of someone taking advantage of these little kids at the Boys and Girls Club. That Boys and Girls Club has been there and that on Capitol Street for decades and decades and decades. So I hope that in this final thinking and as we move forward, what we're going to do, that some consideration is given to these babies at the Boys and Girls Club to keep them out of harm's way. But again, I thank Councilmember Hartley for speaking what a lot of people are saying in West Jackson and Central Jackson about, it seems like we getting the majority of the homeless in this city, and we surely don't want to become a New Orleans or Los Angeles where, it's out of control with homelessness. And I understand that the gentleman said we all deserve housing and dwelling, and he's exactly right. We believe that. God made house for all of us, but, we got to find a way where we're not gonna destroy areas of this city that had, in the past, it was stabilized. But once you bring homeless, they destabilize that part of the community. And then that drug usage and that heroin and needles. You know, kids can't go to the parks because of these needles from heroin. Kid accidentally touch that needle, he can end up with hepatitis or any and everything else. Some kind of way, they're going to have to stop these homeless people from being drug addicts. A lot of them are homeless because they're drug addicts, and they need treatment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, and thank you for coming before us today, and we look forward to considering item number 45. Thank you. All right, colleagues, we are now moving on to the consent agenda.
All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Since this, does anyone have any desire to pull any of these out separately? If not, then we're going to go ahead and go and vote on this. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Now we are moving all the way to item number 16, because we appreciate the very healthy consent agenda today. Item 16, clerk, would you, again, colleagues, this is an introduction of ordinances, so we will consider this we will discuss this at this time. Would the clerk please get it on the floor?
Ordinance of the City Council of Jackson, Mississippi, honorary renaming Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive from Woodrow Wilson Avenue to Maple Street to Judge Loretta Cooper Stokes Drive.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stokes, would you like to make any comments about this? We are.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Stokes.
Madam President, I apologize I'm not there in person for this particular meeting. It was my intention to be there, but God had a different plan for me this morning, and this item probably would have seen a heavyweight fat man crying like a baby, because this grief that I have for my wife is overwhelming to me. It's something that some say I should be over by now, but it's something that time is the only healer besides God. She went to Lindale High School, and she was at the old New Hope Church right there at Woodrow Wilson. And at the time it was Whitfield Mills Road, even though it's Dr. King now. And she graduated from Lanier, and I just feel that the proper thing would do is honorary name. It'll still be Dr. King Drive from Woodrow Wilson to Maple Street, where it'll stop right there by Lanier High School. She was the first black female county court judge in Hinds County. We have to give role models and give young people examples who come from poor neighborhoods that the way out of poverty is through education. They got to stay in school. They got to steer clear of drugs. They must, if they're going to be successful, they must go to church, put God in their life. So I just hope that, with time, to honorary name part of Dr. King Drive for Loretta Cooper Stokes Judge will be a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes, and we certainly appreciate those heartfelt comments about your wonderful wife, and we're very touched by the fact that you have put this on the agenda, and we will look forward to, excuse me just a minute, the clerk of the council is motioning. Okay.
Clerk of Council Shanikia Jordan, this item will appear on the September 12th council meeting as an adoption. We will get it published or advertised in the newspaper and meet the requirements for the 15-day prior to.
Thank you so much, and we will look forward to considering it then, Mr. Stokes. So,
thank you so much. God bless you.
yes, thank you. All right, colleagues, we are moving now on to item number 18, which is claims.
Order approving claims appearing at pages 6 to 5, 2 inclusive thereon, on municipal docket of claims in the amount of $2,724,158.66 for and make an appropriation for the payment thereof.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Malumbeka, is he here? Where is he? Oh, Mr. Wright, would you please go over larger claims? Before you do that, though, I want to announce that we have, for the record, we've added another city council member, and it's Mr. Brian Griselle representing Ward 4. Thank you, Mr. Griselle, for joining us. All right, Mr. Wright?
Sure, thank you. Louis Wright, Chief Administrative Officer. The larger claims for this period include the Evans Agency in the amount of $343.19, and this is coming from Fund WC 2324, New Policy Down Payment. The second one is TransDev Service, Planning and Development, in the amount of $275,669.90. This is the June 2023 Paratransit Services, Fund 187, Transportation. The third one is Four Seasons Enterprise, and this is Planning and Development in the amount of $206,000, and this is the demolition of Casa Grande Apartment, Fund 1, General Fund. And the last one is Regions Bank in the amount of $182,080.26. And this is Regions 2020 lease, September 2023 payment. And this will be paid out of Fund 1, General Fund, Fund 5, Parks, and Fund 9, Sanitation. And that concludes the larger claims.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Hartley?
Yes, Mr. Wright. That last item you mentioned, can you repeat that?
Yeah, Regions Bank in the amount of $182,080.26. Regions 2020 lease, September 2023 payment, Fund 1, General Fund, Fund 5, Parks, and Fund 9, Sanitation.
And the reason I ask that is because sanitation is under the enterprise fund. Is that going to be a problem using monies from that?
Let me check with administration. It's my understanding this is equipment lease.
Okay, okay, and so it's equipment for the solid waste division?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is the first item, $343,000 to the Evans Agency Legal, and it's WC 23-24 New Policy Down Payment Fund, or it comes from the Fund 1, but what is that?
Tori Martin on behalf of the Office of the City Attorney. I believe that's our workers' compensation insurance. That's the WC, and the Evans Agency is the broker.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
We're buying insurance. How is that? Is that as we budgeted $343,000? Is that?
That's part of my budget,
Or
yes.
it comes through your
Yeah,
budget?
so it comes through risk management.
Okay, thank you.
If I may,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilwoman, I'm about to say President Lindsay again. We were going to ask that the city council hold off on a vote on the claims docket at this time. We're awaiting some final documentation from the finance department, and they're walking it over. It has not made it over here yet, so we're going to ask that y'all hold it at this time and give us a minute before you actually vote on it.
Okay, well, in that case, is he walking it over right this second? Is he ready? No?
I do
No.
not think it is yet
Okay.
ready, but I
All
will
right,
notify
so-
you.
All right, well, in that case, we will take this up later somebody just let me know when you're ready for a vote on this. And so for now, I'm going to withdraw my motion. All right, thank you. We will take up claims later in the meeting. All right, with that, we are moving on to payroll, item number 19.
Order approving payroll, Order approving gross payroll, including payroll deduction claims number 29198, and making appropriation for the payment thereof.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
A question, Madam
Yes,
President.
sir, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Dr. Malabelka. In terms of payroll, and I know we're in the budget process currently, and I know there are some plans to do something for the fire department. But have we considered some type of raise for all the employees without raising insurance?
Good morning, Fidelis Malembeka, Chief Financial Officer. With respect to other departments, that has not been contemplated. The main discussion in the budget hearings has been a way to figure out increases for the fire department, but also the police department is looking within their budget to be able to give raises to certain employment classes. But holistically for the city, that has not been done. What has been happening over the last year and a half, department directors have been going through their budgets to determine what positions can they freeze, in turn to give employees increases. That's the way it has been done over the last year and a half.
Now, when you say employee increases, are we speaking of all employees? Because some of the employees feel that favoritism might be taking place where ones who getting raises might not deserve as much more as some of those that's been left out. So we want to make sure we include all employees. Is that the formula you're using for that?
I won't characterize it as all employees. The concentration has been the lowest paid employees. So when you look at Parks and Recreation, you look at Public Works, it has mainly been the lowest paid employees. So whoever falls within that employment category, for instance, maintenance workers, because of the way as a city we classify employees within departments, those that fall within the maintenance division, that particular group would get the increase. And it has been everyone within that category, right? So it covers everybody within that category. It's not necessarily performance-based. It's what I typically refer to as internal equity adjustment. So trying to bring everyone up to a particular level. But also you have to do a compression, because as you increase, the lowest paid person, you might be creeping up to the next level. So you might have to do an adjustment for, that other group. But that's been the holistic approach that has been carried out over the last year and a half.
But there's no plans to raise insurance, is it?
No, so what we did, as a general policy, the city covers 100% for employee coverage. Then what is the norm in industries is for employees to pick up the cost for any coverage outside of single coverage. So employee plus one, employee plus children, and family coverage. The city now pays 85% of that cost. So the cost the employees pays only 15%. There has not been an appetite or discussion to pass on additional costs to employees, because we do recognize that benefit.
When would they make a decision for employees to get on insurance or get insurance, or when would those decisions be made?
So employees, upon hire, offer the opportunity to enroll in the plans. And what would happen is if an employee selects not to get on the insurance plan and decides mid-year, unfortunately, that's not a life-changing event. So they have to wait until open enrollment, which comes towards the end of the year, and the policy goes into effect January 1st. So around October, November, employees will receive notification to be able to sign up for insurance coverage. We do currently have approximately 1,300 employees that participate in the health insurance plan. So it's majority of the employees that are hired by the city that are on the plan.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Any other questions on payroll? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. It's a vote of 6-0. All right, colleagues, we are putting item number 20 in the Finance Committee. We decided to do that yesterday during work session after an extensive conversation. And so we did have a lengthy and good work session yesterday, and I hope that helps us with this agenda today because it's very meaty. We've got a lot to get through today. And then we also will reconvene and go back into budget hearings this afternoon at 2:30. So it's a really busy time for the city council. All right, would the clerk please put item number 21 on the...
Councilwoman Lindsay?
Excuse me? Yes.
On item 20, we really are up on a time crunch, and we can't afford for it to go into the Finance Committee. I understand that there was some questions asked in the work session yesterday that I guess you didn't get the answers that you needed. I was not here. I would like for the item to go up for consideration, and I can answer any questions.
Dr. Omari, the item's not on the floor, but I think the real issue was the order itself and the fact that there's some conflicting numbers in there. And so what we're gonna, we have a special meeting scheduled for this afternoon at 5:30 if we end up having that. But I am not comfortable, it was decided yesterday, and we're here all the time right now. We can deal with this quickly, but I think there's some things that have got to be fixed on that before we can consider it. And so I'm going to leave that right now going into committee, and then we will, but I will discuss this with Mr. Banks, and I promise you we will do everything we can to get this resolved very quickly for you. We're here plenty, so we've got plenty of opportunities to do that. All right, so with that, would the clerk please get item number 21 on the floor?
Order authorizing the mayor to execute contract execution, mentor compensation, workshop presenter compensation, and funds transfer film Jackson Youth Summer Camp.
So moved.
Second.
All right, questions, any questions or comments, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, Madam President.
Okay, so we had 5 in favor, 1 abstaining, and Mr. Banks is absent. Okay. Item number 22.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute a 48-month rental agreement with Advantage Business Systems for one Conoco Minolta Biz Hub B360i color copier to be used by the Chief Administration Office pursuant to state contract number 82000-67921.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second on item 22. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item number 23.
Order authorizing amendment of the Jackson Police Department 2022-2023 budget for purchase of in-car cameras, body-worn cameras, software, and equipment.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. We've got a lot. All right, so any questions or comments on this item, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 24.
Order authorizing the purchase of body-worn cameras, related equipment, warranties, and cloud storage pursuant to GSA MAS contract 47QTCA19D00MM.
So moved.
Second, we have a motion and a second on this item. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 25.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Hinds County District Attorney's Office to support the local law enforcement crime and gun intelligence center integration initiative.
So moved.
Second, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, colleagues. Item 26.
Order to authorize an agreement with Josephine's Kitchen LP for food services and providing meals for the Jackson Police Department Training Academy 69th recruit
So
class.
moved. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Colleagues, any questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Lee?
I would like to thank the police department for choosing Josephine's Kitchen, which is a local restaurant in Ward 2 and also the son of Chief Vance. So thank you for
Amen.
choosing Josephine's Kitchen.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lee. Any other questions or comments, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
That's a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Number 27. Thank you.
Order accepting the bid of the Southern Connection Police Supplies LLC for an 18-month supply of bar lights, electronic sirens, switch boxes, speakers, communication organizers, and security screens at $4,958 per unit. Bid number 05554-072523.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second, and we also welcome Mr. Banks. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Mr. Banks, I'm handing it over to you.
Don't stop it. Mr. Stokes has a question.
I got a question on this.
I'm sorry, you need me to keep going. All right, Mr. Stokes and then Mr. Foote.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Is the chief there, Madam President?
Is the chief here? Chief Griselle is coming to the podium, Mr. Stokes.
Okay, thank you. Chief, the last few items that we had are extremely important, especially the body cameras and cameras for the cars and everything else. And it's a sense of safety for the police department to make sure that what is done is recorded. And it's a sense of safety for the citizens in this city to make sure that we have checks and balances. Now, I know we have cameras in different parts of the city. We recently had a nightmare at Bailey Avenue and Woodrow Wilson where two bad words were shooting at each other and they shot into the McDonald's in the playland, and luckily the children were not there. Whether or not our camera system, because we had a medical mall there, picks up that particular area. If we do not have cameras there, we need cameras. I guess I'm asking, do we have cameras at that particular area?
Deputy Chief Vincent Griselle, Support Services. At this time, Councilman, we do not have a camera system at that particular location, but that is one of our target areas that we discussed yesterday.
Well, I know that the medical mall got cameras, and most of those businesses over there have cameras, and there's a church there. Have we made efforts to try to make sure we get everyone else cameras to show and identify the bad people who did that act?
Right now, and I can't really say, but I'm for sure that major investigation has reached out to Capitol Police, which the medical mall do belong to the state. So I'm sure they surveillance the area to check to make sure that there's cameras in each location. I'm sure they did that.
Could you, to make sure, because I know you overworked and underpaid, could you please check and to verify that everything has been done? Because it's a sense of fear in that area. We've already lost a drugstore, Walgreens left, and with open shooting in the middle of the day. You got other businesses not considering leaving. Plus, you still have some people around the medical mall that's extremely concerned about. So could you please double check that, please, for us?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so
I'll
much.
go ahead and follow up now. I'll find out and I'll give you a call back.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Foote?
Chief Griselle, I got a question on this item. It lists all these different things, bar lights, electronic sirens, switch boxes, speakers, communications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it says at $4,958 per unit. Can you tell me what per unit is that?
Yes, that's the actual outfitting of each patrol car. That's exactly what it costs per car. Yes, sir.
All the stuff fits into a car. That works
Yes,
as
sir.
a system.
We have to do an RFP, so that's what we got it down to.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Hartley. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple questions for you, Deputy Chief. How many units are involved here?
With the first rollout is 13 units.
So that's
13 for patrols and 5 for captains.
So that's 13 times 5,000.
18.
18.
Yes, sir.
18,000?
No, sir. 18 vehicles
Okay,
times
so
that
that's 18
outfitting.
times the 5,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My other question is, we're going to have the cameras, we have 25 cameras that are in.
Correct.
And they're going to be put up around the city?
Yes, sir.
When? You know?
As soon as Chief Wade discussed with the mayor, we went over the list yesterday.
Okay.
And I'm sure he's going to present it, those locations, once he verifies that's where he wants to go.
Understood. And we appreciate if the city, the council can also get a copy of that. Will they have the license plate readers on them?
Not this particular rollout, but we discussed for the flock system to be enhanced with those camera systems. So the contract, I just pulled it down yesterday to send to legal, to get that to legal ASAP.
And what are the advantages of that license plate readers?
Just majority let you know what's stolen and carjacked. You could do alerts.
Okay.
Even if you don't have the alerts, it collects the data and
Okay.
it stores that data in the cloud base.
Okay.
So if something didn't happen 2 weeks ago, you could run that tag and find out that particular car hit that particular location,
So-
and it start collecting the data of that vehicle.
Right. So I've had folks ask me, well, is this going to be the same thing we had years ago with the tickets and running red lights and stuff? And that's not it.
no,
This
no
is
citation.
Primarily crime prevention.
Correct.
Okay, and I applaud that, to see who's in our city, what stolen vehicles are out there, tracking down folks where they're at, where they're not at as they go through in and out of our city. I think that's
Correct.
important. And lastly, I just wanted to thank Chief Wade for his innovativeness and his leadership. I mean, he's looked like he is making some critical moves that's going to help our crime-fighting efforts move forward.
Yes.
So we certainly appreciate that. Sorry that he's not here for me to tell him that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
briefly. Well, just because you said that last part, and we do appreciate all of the hard work that Chief Wade has been doing, but I can't allow the moment to pass without giving Chief Griselle. He was actually the person who inspired everything with the Real-Time Crime Center. He brought it to me years ago, and every rollout, every phase, every camera has been his insistence, even in the wee hours of the morning where he texts about locations and cameras, and so
Thank you.
he doesn't let you go on it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Deputy Chief Griselle. Amazing job at the Crime Center. I know you guys, are you going to have to man up over there anymore?
Yes, matter of fact, we have the openings just opening last week.
Mhm.
So we're getting ready to start that process, interview process, hopefully next week.
So thanks for everything you do, and hopefully this will be a vital part of our crime-fighting efforts. Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Councilwoman Lindsay.
First of all, I want to welcome you, Mr. President, and we did express our condolences to you at the beginning of the meeting, and we're glad to see you. Chief Griselle, thank you for all that you're doing with the Real-Time Crime Center. It is nothing short of a miracle. I'm glad to hear that the openings are now before us. How many are you hoping to fill?
Well, approved for 15, but on this first rollout, it's budget for 5 with additional people, so we should have right about 10 with all those on deck.
Well, I know a lot of our communities certainly are relying on the Real-Time Crime Center and all the work that you've done and want to only see it grow and flourish. And so thank you for all that you've done.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief Griselle. You mentioned when you were talking to Councilman Hartley at the end of your sentence, you said no citation.
Correct.
About the camera. Now, it caught my ear because with the state barring cameras, are you saying that we can have cameras as long as we do not give citations?
Correct. The cameras that we have is not traffic cams. It doesn't citate anyone. It only gives you the evidence for whatever case that you need.
Okay, the reason I ask because we got people running red lights like 90 going north, and can you check with the state and see if we're not violating state law, if we can put up some kind of cameras that would not give citations, but we can get some of these tags and some of these people that's putting other citizens in danger. They running red lights coming through there and about to kill people.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Councilman Stokes, that was one of the things that we put as a part of our legislative agenda some years back. The state legislature was adamant that they were opposed to allowing us or anyone to do. Now.
Yeah, just kind of, it's most of it.
Okay. They were adamant they wouldn't allow us to do the traffic cameras for citations again. Our own delegation was not particularly supportive of that particular action. So we know that we can't do that. We can't issue citations as a result of that.
But we can take pictures and everything, right? Without citations, right?
Yeah, we can take pictures for the purpose of investigating a criminal event. We don't want to give our residents the impression that we are surveilling, just doing common surveillance of residents, and that's not what it's for. It's so that we can have a real-time, hence the word real-time crime center, a real-time reaction to events that take place.
I think the clarity.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the clarity that Councilman Stokes is asking for with the surveillance units that we have in the event if someone is caught running a red light on camera, can we deal with that?
I think that's a really sticky circumstance. I think it not only would possibly run afoul of their ban of them, but also it depends on what the camera catches. It's a lot to the process of how a traffic camera works and operates in comparison to another camera. It's time stamped when you went through, how many seconds you went through. It's a number of things. So I don't think we should do that.
Okay. Councilman Hartley?
Yes, Chief, I'm sorry.
No,
you almost got away. One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Comes to mind. Are these cameras going to be compatible with county, the state, and other folks, or can we share data that way?
Yes, we can. Just to let you know, our camera system is more sophisticated than any other camera system in the state of Mississippi right now. We have the #1 real-time command center in the state. A lot of agencies, surrounding agencies, have mimicked exactly what we're doing. So we do have the best one. Artificial intelligence goes a long way. When you look at descriptions or a particular vehicle, that camera recognizes and remembers that vehicle. And once that vehicle hit each location, it actually will alert the responder to that particular item of that vehicle.
And my question was basically in this, you know, we need to maximize our crime-fighting efforts.
Correct.
And I don't want, you know, I don't think it would be as helpful if we alone had access and no one else did, if we had something that wasn't compatible with the other agencies and what they're doing. I think, you know, Jackson is the center of a lot of things, and crime is one of them. And as they try to fight things in the Jackson metro area, it would be helpful if we could share data. And so that's all I'm asking. Is it compatible with what other folks have going on as well? I know Chief Wade had mentioned that some of the other cities, I think maybe Madison, they record folks coming into their city and going out of their city. And so that's one of my questions is there something we can share on a larger level?
Yes,
Thank you.
Flock system is what they're using. We actually brought Flock, and I met with the president in Atlanta, Georgia, through Fuses, and we actually sat down and came up with a plan. So that is on deck already. It's just some steps that we have to make to get that cleared. But that system, we actually brought it to the table. Yes, sir.
All right, any more questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimous. Next item.
Then 28 is the next item, I believe. Just wanted to let you know we're pulling that item. Apparently, I believe that y'all took up that item as an emergency some time ago, so it's not necessary. The last meeting.
Go ahead. So for clarity, the item, and I'm sorry, I'm just coming in. The item we were on when I came in was 27. Okay, so
Yeah.
28 is being pulled.
Yeah, you already took up that item.
All right. Okay. All right. So item 29.
Order amending the June 23rd, 2019 order authorizing the mayor to execute contracts between Thalberg Hall and concert promoters in advance of council approval to include venue rentals by vendors.
So move. It's been moving properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? All right.
Abstain, Mr. President.
And Councilwoman Lee?
Abstain as well.
All right, so we have 5 and 2 abstentions. Did I get that right, clerk?
Yep, you did.
Okay. All right, next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute a programmatic grant renewal addendum with FitLot Inc. for 54 outdoor fitness classes to be in 12 months starting July 1, 2023 at Palm Bridges Park.
So moved.
It's been moving properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, item passes unanimously. Take up the next item.
Order increasing the vendor permit fee from $25 to $75 for special events held by the City of Jackson Department of Parks and Recreation.
So move.
Second.
It's been moving properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
I abstain, Mr. President.
All right, we have 6 in favor, 1 abstention. All right, next item.
Order amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget for the Department of Parks and Recreations to transfer $14,000 from the temp or part-time salary category to other professional services category to cover up incoming invoices for Summer League sports officials.
So move.
Second.
All right, it's been moving properly second on this item. Any comments or questions? Brother Abraham, where you at? These referees gonna be certified? They are certified? Hit the button.
Abram Muhammad, Deputy Director for Parks and Rec. Yes, sir, they already are.
Okay.
Mr. President.
All right, you know.
I already know where you're going. Yes,
All right.
sir.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Thank you. Next
Thank you.
item.
Order authorizing the mayor to amend 15 antenna site license agreements with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC to modify equipment and increase licensing fees at 15 tower sites within the city of Jackson.
So moved.
It's been moving properly second on this item. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stokes.
Thank you. Mr. President, it was brought to my attention that digging, as these people lay these fiber optics, that Jackson is the only city in this area that we do not have a shut-off time. They dig all day or night if they would like in Jackson, and other cities, they are required to stop it, I think they say around 2 o'clock, and they got to have their stuff packed up and gone at least by 3. And they say the problem with that is that with them digging late, then if they hit water lines or power lines or other things, that it could lead to major problems. Can we explore what's taking place in surrounding areas and whether or not we want to start having a shut-off time, a reasonable time in the city of Jackson with people who dig in Jackson, especially with these fiber optics that's getting ready. They're seeing so many different companies coming in here, and they're going to replace what they have.
Robert Lee, city engineer. We will definitely communicate reasonable construction with contractors, and if there are specific issues that come up, any complaints can come to my office, and we will handle those accordingly.
Thank you.
I might add, Councilman Stokes.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry. Thank you. That it certainly is in the purview of the council to establish a city ordinance that requires a shut-off time for contracts. I ask that if you choose to do that, that you only do so in consultation with the Public Works Department to know how it will affect their production.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, it's a vote of 6-0. Thank you. All right, colleagues, we're moving on now we're at item 34.
Order authorizing change order number 1 final to the contract with Lewis Electric, Inc. for repairs to the traffic signal at Northside Drive at Bowling Street and authorizing payment.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any questions or comments? Mr. Hartley?
Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Good morning.
For the sake of some folks who weren't here yesterday, I'd like to repeat a question asked in planning, and that is, it seems as though some of our lights are systematically going out now, and your explanation was, can you repeat that, please?
So we do have a lot of aging equipment, and some of the issues that have cropped up lately is some of those. For instance, at Lynch and Ellis, the cabinet is about 40 years old. The manufacturer no longer exists. So we've been able to source a replacement cabinet. That work is in progress of removing the replacement cabinet from where it's at and bringing it over to Lynch and Ellis. We had a controller go out on Medgar Evers and Holmes. That actually, I think, still has its Y2K compliant sticker on it. The order that was done to get some replacement controllers, that was a 6-week lead out. We're about 2 weeks away from coming in. We'll see if we can locate a replacement cabinet or controller that we can stick in there. And then we had some others that had electrical issues that are going to be much bigger fish to fry, no pun intended, particularly at Terry McDowell and Cooper and Oak Forest.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate the one on Lynch and Ellis. As you know, we've been in touch pretty much every day trying to find a best way forward. One of the things that I noticed, though, is, well, we've had accidents there as a result. And I'm grateful that no one was killed, okay? But I appreciate you guys going and at least putting a flashing light there so people will understand, hey, everybody needs to stop. And I appreciate that. My question is there any way we can put the ordering of this equipment on an emergency basis and see if we can expedite the whole process of
The equipment was
repair?
ordered about 4 weeks ago, but it's a lead time.
Okay.
And that's why and I've communicated this with our maintenance shop, stuff that has a longer lead out, whether it's 4 to 6 weeks or 40 weeks, we have to put those order in early and keep stuff on stock and not dwindle down to nothing. And that's been a major focus point I've been hammering home.
Okay, have there been any adjustments to your budget for these aging lights systems?
No. And that's something that we will discuss this afternoon at 2:30.
Good, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay?
All right, are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say thank you that we get some of these lights on, and the accidents are real. I heard Councilman Hartley speaking about one at Lynch and Ellis, but one at Northside Drive in Livingston. Some people, even when lights are working, they just run them. So when there's no lights at all, they're surely running them. And they hitting innocent people, especially the elderly, who really just trying to go to the store, to a doctor's appointment. And that's why it's so important that we get people like Lewis Electric, and hopefully we can get others who understand that it's important to do work for the city. You know, we're reliable, we're going to pay you. But you used to have a lot of companies that would be glad to do signal work in the city of Jackson. I know some might be out of business, but we had our own division that was pretty strong at one time. But we got to get more companies who can come in here who would make it a priority that we can get these signals back on in a timely manner. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You had a response? All right. Any more questions or comments, colleagues? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing change order number 1 final to the contract with Lewis Electric, Inc. for repairs to the traffic signal at Watkins Drive at Valley North Boulevard and authorizing payment.
So moved.
So moved.
All right. It's been moved and properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right. Item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing change order number 1 final to the contract with Lewis Electric, Inc. for repairs to the traffic signal at Medgar Evers Boulevard at Ridgeway Street and authorizing payment.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second with the spirit. Are there any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Lord.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right. Item passes in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
There you go.
All right, preacher.
Next item.
Order ratifying a contract with Lewis Electric, Inc. for reconstruction of the traffic signal at Northside Drive at Livingston Road.
So moved.
Ooh, so moved.
Second.
I don't know who did the motion to second,
I
but
did
clerk,
the
you got
motion.
that? Okay, all right. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yes.
All right, item passes. Next item.
Order ratifying a contract with Geostabilization International, Inc. for slide repairs on Silas Brown Street at Woodrow Wilson Bridge.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order ratifying a contract with Geostabilization International, Inc. for slide repairs on Old Canton Road at Hanging Moss Creek.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Count.
Yes,
President,
yes, sir. Mr. Foote?
I was out there yesterday afternoon, and it was looking really, really good. I appreciate the hard work that we've done getting this I guess national firm in to repair this rather challenging damage that's been done to the creek crossing there on Old Canton Road, and it's looking really very professionally done. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments, colleagues? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order ratifying the contract with PDT Logistics LLC for debris removal necessitated by the Straight Line windstorm disaster, which the governing authorities declared an emergency on June 16, 2023.
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second on this item. I have a question. Communications. Can we make sure that we get something out? There are still a lot of residents and a lot of our residential streets that have debris from that storm that are still left on the curb. They've been there for months, and a lot of them just don't know. So if there's a way for constituents to get their information or addresses to this group so they'll know these are the streets or these are the areas, and we get that under some type of mass communications, that would be appreciated, Mayor.
We'll certainly lift it up in a press conference. We didn't want to indicate until we had a contract in place what people should be doing. And so now if we can get this contract in place, we can instruct them of what the action should be and how the POWs should be maintained and the like.
Yeah. And I appreciate it because if y'all don't get it out, people gonna start burning this stuff in their backyards, and there goes the fire department. All right, Councilman Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of things. First of all, there's a difference of numbers on the front page. It's $250,000 listed twice. The next page, it's $295,000. And then on the third page, it's listed again as $295,000. That's
Not to exceed.
What's that?
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed, but they're different numbers.
There are different numbers.
So the next thing is that it says down here that $60 and, I think it's $60.50 per cubic yard. Could somebody, and then I'd like to know the mechanics of how we know, how much that is. That may just be a small dent in the debris that's out there in the city, because I don't know that there's an official assessment of how much debris is out there. So after going through this and spending most of the money that's available in that budget or the fund number 9, it may be that a lot of citizens are still looking at debris everywhere they go, and they're going to be upset that they don't get, any impact on their particular neighborhood. So my question would be, how do we make sure that there's an impact made across the city and from this effort here? And then how do we make sure that, we do get our money's worth from the standpoint of $60.50 per cubic yard? I mean, how is that, how are those metrics met and addressed by us as the city council and the people overseeing the funds?
Lakeisha Weathers actually is in training today, so I will do my best to impersonate her.
Okay.
First, on the discrepancy between the order and the 10-point, the not to exceed $250,000 is what we're going with. I think the finance team found $295, but the contract under the ratification had been signed for $250, so we're going with that $250 instead of having to go back and redo the contract, redo all that. As far as how much you'll get for the contract involved, Lakeisha tells me you'll probably get about 3 to 5 days worth of work based on their production rate of pickup. They've already lined up as far as what streets they want PDT to focus on. We have a long list as is, never mind, other things that may be coming out of the woodwork. That will be, I believe that's going to the rubbish landfill, and we'll measure it.
Come to the mic.
Oh, sorry. So the landfill that it goes to, which will not be the city landfill, they will measure the trucks for volume, and then that volume will be what's paid. And we'll have tickets to back all that up.
All right, Councilman Hartley.
Yes, Mr. Lee. Is there a reason it's not going to our rubbish landfill?
I'd have to check with the PDT on that, and maybe just logistics of it might be better for them to take it up to like the one on North Carolina Road. I just couldn't give you an answer on that right now.
I know
can
that
check on that.
we would have to pay a tipping fee wherever we go. And we have a rubbish landfill that can take trees. And I was just wondering, okay, what was the reason that we're not using the free landfill if there were some problems at our landfill or whatever? But
Let me follow up with PDT on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And my other question, I guess, comment is that, are you going to publish that list of streets or anything so folks can get a heads up?
Let me get with Lakeisha on that. She'll be back in the office tomorrow.
Okay, and finally, a telephone number for solid waste is 601-960-0000. That's one of the telephone numbers that folks can call in and get on that list. But apparently, we may have to come back to this with more money. So we'll see.
Either more money or we'll have to, work in-house and
Okay.
use our in-house equipment.
Sure. Again, 601-960-0000, solid waste. Ms. Weathers, she can get folks on the list. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir, Mr. Stokes.
Mr. President, who is PDT? Are they a local company or?
Yes, sir.
Oh, what?
They're a local minority company.
Okay. In terms of equipment, do they have enough equipment? Because there's trees down, limbs down all over this city, and some thought that our garbage contract will allow the garbage people to pick it up.
Yes, sir. They do have equipment. They are local. Unfortunately, they did not go to Lanier. They graduated from Forest Hill High School. So I just
No vote. Okay.
Mr. Stokes, if I may, Mr. Banks,
Yes, go ahead, Councilwoman Lee.
we have previously contracted them before for some previous storm removal, and they do have the equipment needed to pick up large storm debris.
How are we gonna, Mr. President? Because we got older people that's been calling, and some of these trees, some people cut it up for them, but they were not able to bring them to the streets, to the right of way. Do we have
Mr.
plans?
No, that was one of the things we just addressed with communications, and they're going to do an omen's job of getting that information out. And because these folks didn't go to Callaway, it will get done in a timely fashion.
But are they going to help the older people bring them to the curbs? Because I would imagine they can't go on private property.
Right.
Well, first, let's say that the Callaway people already got theirs pulled to the street. It ain't even in the middle of their house. But to answer your question, we are unable, either as a city or as a contractor, to go onto people's property. We can't have an agent go onto the property. And so if there are problems, then with maybe elderly residents, possibly we can reach out to constituent services and see how we might be able to coordinate a community response to help support them get their debris to the curve. But as a city, we just cannot go onto their property.
Okay. And finally, how do we ensure that it's going to be done citywide? Because I understand with this Fund number 9, it's not enough money, and you don't want people start complaining, well, why was it done in such a ward and not in this ward? How do we ensure equity in terms of who's going to be missed in terms of having the limbs picked up?
We'll have Ms. Weathers report back to you and explain the overall plan and coordination of it. As Robert Lee stated earlier, she's out today, but she can give you more details on that. We're going to make sure that we work to get to every resident. It may take some time, but we will do so. This is not this company's first time doing debris removal. It may require more money, but we want to get started because it's already been sitting out for far too long.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lee, She's already done, they already done pre-assessments, right? From my understanding.
They've done some assessments, yes.
All right, so I think what we need, Mayor, maybe a period or a week for us to put this information out. And if there's specific streets that are reported to us, we get that over. And then that way, they will have the information. And then with, I think with the communications, blast and everything, that people will be aware.
Yeah, I'm confident in Lakeisha Weathers' ability to coordinate this. I just personally don't have those details available to me, so that's why I pointed back to her, and I think she can help support y'all in y'all's communication with your constituents through this process.
Yes, sir. And Lakeisha Weathers' son graduated from Forest Hill. Mr. Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just was going to point out that the nature of these storms ended up with a lot of debris that's still up in the trees. And it's, in some cases, even more dangerous than the debris that's down on the roads. And I don't expect this vendor to be able to get the debris in the trees, but it's something we need to be aware of and conscious of. I'm not sure what the solution is, but it is something that's going to be there for a while.
Solution for hanging limbs? I know there's some in my ward, Mr. Grizel, Maddox Road, Lake Shore, Forest Road, they're hanging limbs that are just hanging.
If they're hanging over right away, let me know, and I'll try to, work with our bridges and drainage.
Over the street?
That too.
Okay.
Let me know if it's going to be something that requires like a bigger bucket truck or a boom truck that may, have to go rent one or get somebody to give us a hand on that. But just, let us know what's going on with those so we can assess it and determine if that's something we can knock out in-house or if we're going to have to.
Do we have a bucket truck?
We have a signal bucket truck, but as far as like a larger, big truck like Ashplund or one of the tree services, no, we don't have like a tree truck.
Okay. Councilman Martin, did you have?
Just one thing. Is there going to be a cutoff period for this? I know you all are in a constant state of assessment with people. As time goes on, they're bringing it to the curb, and so I'm sure that can't go on forever. So is there a plan here to?
I'll defer to Ms. Weathers when she gets back in as far as, when we're going to say no mas.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President, I had on discussion trees. I think that would take care of the item that I was going to try to talk about, and I think I have to do a couple more things today, so I'm going to get off of the call, off the line. And we're praying for you and your family, Mr. President. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. So, Clerk, let's go on and mark 56 done. Any other?
And I hold my other item. Thank you.
You hold the other ones? Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes, and we appreciate you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item passes 5-1. All right, next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development the City of Jackson's 2023 one-year action plan of the 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan.
So move.
Second.
It's been moving properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Hartley.
Good morning, Ms. Dobson.
Good morning.
Your name?
Chloe Dotson, Director of Planning.
Okay, my question is on this action plan, what are the major elements that we're looking at? Do you know off the top of your head? Okay.
Yes, so there's ESG money, there's HOPWA money, there's home money, and then there's CDBG money. Our CDBG money is going to be spread throughout, so there's numerous projects that we're doing, including City of Jackson fire stations. We have the CDBG limited repair program for our low to moderate income families, as well as facade improvement grants through the Special Economic Development. And then for ESG, this is focused on homeless operations throughout the city. The home program, we're going to be hopefully soon partnering with the entity that can do down payment assistance. housing community development next year will focus primarily on quality of life programs through the Neighborhood Services Division and down payment assistance to increase home ownership and our tax base.
Okay, is there anything in there to, I know I'm kind of getting close to Public Works here, but drainage issues and so forth that affects neighborhoods?
With the CDBG money, we're partnering with the Neighborhood Services Division, which is that new division that is going to be providing neighborhood grants. So in reality, if a neighborhood organization wanted to do a drainage project, and as long as it was eligible, CDBG-wise, they could use that money to do a drainage project.
So can they apply for it now?
I would have to see. I believe the applications are online. They have to go through our Education 101 courses so they can understand how everything kind of works. But I can email that out. I believe the applications are online, both to get neighborhood organizations back registered with the city, the improvement plans, the Education 101, and the Healthy Neighborhood designation.
And that's under the Planning Department website?
That's under the Planning Department's website. If you go to the Neighborhood Services Division, I can send you that link after council.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Foot.
So I'm going to make sure I understand this, Ms. Dotson. So there's going to be $4,054,000 and $417 to disperse to different parties. Is that correct?
No.
No, it's not.
No.
That's what so what's happening to the $4,054,000 and $417?
So for the home program, we're doing the down payment assistance. For ESG, we're helping and supporting homeless pursuits. So to answer your question, not all of the money is going to neighborhood, to entities. A lot of it's going towards down payment assistance.
Okay.
In the past, for example, our home money went to support low-income housing tax credits. Next year, it will go to support down payment assistance for home ownership.
Okay.
So there will be still opportunities for folks to apply for money, but it will be in a different fashion because we're switching gears from rentals to home ownership.
Okay. So that's mainly towards home ownership?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanna
And
make
quality
sure.
of life programs and projects.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Hinds County Economic Development Authority to provide viable industrial parks for Jackson's business community.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to expend $5,000 from the National League of Cities NLC grant to reimburse travel expenses for participating in various convenings for the Southern Cities Economic Inclusions Initiative.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Let me say that I want to extend thanks to your division, Chloe, for this. I know that Councilman Griselle had an opportunity to be there all day. I did have an opportunity to step in, but National League of Cities is a very good partner for the city of Jackson. And, you know, in 2020 is when we took up our equity and inclusion, which I was co-chair of. And to see these things implemented within our city, I think is great. So I just want to commend you and your department for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement expending Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus CARES Act funding to prepare, prevent, and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic for micro enterprises in the city of Jackson.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Hartley.
Yes, Ms. Dotson. Again, I'm always concerned when we look at CDBG, and I think of ways just to improve the communities and monies. I especially like the fact that you are allotting money for rebuilding of elderly and poor houses, and we certainly appreciate that. Can you kind of explain how this particular block of money is going to be used?
Sure. So this is our CDBG CV money. We got our special economic development program back up and running where we could give money back out to businesses. And so we released the Small Business Relief Grant Program, which has been pretty successful. But what we noticed is that if you talk about equity and you talk about business development and those businesses that were impacted the most, the severity lies on the lower level businesses, the small businesses that have 1 or 2 employees, particularly those that are minority. And so what we want to do is allow for an opportunity for those smaller businesses to be able to apply for small business grants. Unlike the small business relief grant that we have now, which has a staff employee limitation. So this is going to target smaller businesses that probably felt the highest severity when it came to COVID and its impact on its business.
And so you are reaching out to those small businesses around the city and basically tell them this is an opportunity?
Yeah, so now that we have business licensing functional, we have a database of all our businesses, and within that business licensing process, we ask how many staff they have. So it allows us to pull a particular data set and then disseminate information to those businesses.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Foote. Thank you. Ms. Dodson, on the end, it says here on the last paragraph of this, it says, is therefore ordered, mayor is authorized to expend the CDBG money in amounts not to exceed $150,000, which is the total amount, in the city of Jackson beginning July 18th, 2023 through August 15th, 2023. That's today. Is that really the way it's supposed? I mean, he's only got till the end of today to provide grants to these micro enterprises?
No, I think that's an error on our end.
Should we amend that? When's it supposed to end?
It needs to probably end at the end of this year because those particular grant monies need to be expended. So I'm not sure why we have that date. That was an error on our end. If we can amend that on the floor.
Can the legal department give us a
Yeah,
date to amend that to?
Yeah, legal, if you could give some advice to make sure that this order is in, Chloe, what is the proposed, or what is the date in the application? Do you know?
December 30th. When are we going to open?
What is the date that he was just mentioning? What is the?
I would say December 31st, 2023.
Okay, I propose an amendment to the final whereas in this order that changes it says beginning July 18th, 2023. Instead of saying through August 15th of 2023, I propose we amend that to December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moving properly second on this amendment. Legal, we okay with this? Okay, all right. Hearing none, all in favor? All right,
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lee? All right, the amendment passes. Now we have the item on the floor as amended. Are there any other additional questions or comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the item as amended?
Yes.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute the contract and related documents with Jackson Resource Center to use CARES funds to receive from Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD to prepare, prevent, and respond to the coronavirus for community block grant in the city of Jackson.
So move.
Second.
It's been moving properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Hartley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Again, we're back to this issue. I think of environmental justice, where in the years ago they used to put landfills in poor and black communities, the gullies, the dumps. And so now I'm very concerned that we are moving forward with a footprint, an infrastructure, and the public has not had a chance to speak up on it. Especially in the poorest and the blackest areas of town, where we already have existing homeless issues. We have burned out buildings. I'm sure our fire department respond to them all the time. Vagrants. We have folks, and it's been said that they have some have mental issues, drug issues, sexual issues, AIDS. And again, I'm not unsympathetic to the plight of the homeless. But what I am is pro-community and pro-people like the elderly folks that are already in our community. And without a plan that we can actually see of how this homeless concept is coming together or how it's going to be put together, then I'm inclined not to support this. Not that the center on Langley is not doing a good job, because it is. But the expansion is what I'm concerned about. The expansion without public input, the expansion not into other areas, but into these poorest and blackest areas of town, where we already have existing problems, especially with burned down structures. I'm concerned about that we're just making a larger footprint for homelessness to be attracted to my part of town. And I would hope that my colleagues could join in this sympathetic heart towards the homeless and opening up their wards and their buildings, and we share the wealth around the city, and not just push down on the folks of West Jackson and make it to a point where, hey, look, we got enough issues. We have to help ourselves. So it's not that I'm unsympathetic with the homeless and their plight, but a lot of these folks are coming from out of town, and if we have no plan, then that's a bigger problem. And if we do have a plan, then what is it, and when will it be presented to the people? Thank you.
So, before you comment, President Lindsay, let me help give understanding. The council is the institution. When I came onto this council, it was my responsibility to research what was done previously with Councilman Hendricks, Councilman Yarber, and Councilman Chrysler, and my former vice principal, so that I can understand historically things that might have been presented, the terms before I came in. This plan was presented the 2017-2020 term, and we had 2 years of conversation. That plan was approved and upheld unanimously. At that time, there was community input and there was community weigh-in. They came here for a public hearing. So this is just a continuation of something that has been going on for a while. Let me finish. It is imperative that it is important that we have an understanding of things that happened previously. What is not fair is when there are items that have passed this body since 2018 concerning Capers and concerning this organization that has been a process, and then all of a sudden there's an ask for a halt because of something that is continuing to process, or because of properly continued process. I will say that Councilman Tillman previously supported this. I remember meeting with people from Washington Edition. I remember meeting with people from, around the Rose Street area. They came here for a public hearing. All of those check marks were checked. And if you want to redo history, to go through this exercise again, you can request it, but I think that it is unfair to the process of government, because government just doesn't start when any single person gets elected. Government starts, and government is ongoing and is moving. Councilwoman Lindsay, you had your hand up. You're next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. For the record and just for clarity, this particular item is to benefit an institution or homes, really, for homeless people, and that is in Ward 7. And it's at 1129 Langley Avenue, and I've visited many times, and they are providing a safe place for people to live who have normally been without a safe place to be, largely who have been on the streets in the downtown area, but also other areas as well. And so this is a Ward 7 facility, and I do support it. So thank you for all your concerns, Mr. Hartley. I appreciate your concerns, but I just, for clarity, I want everyone to know that this is not in West Jackson, it's Ward 7.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lindsay. We're going to go, no, hold on. Councilman Foot had his hand up. Dr. Omar, then we'll come back to you, Mr. Hartley. Councilman Foot.
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing that puzzles me about this order is that, and maybe it's intended to be this way, but it's dated July 25th, 2023, which is about 3 weeks ago. And then it says the contract, this $349,125, will cover cost of services beginning April 1, 2022 through December 31, 2023. So is the purpose of this to back pay services that were provided over the past, that would be about 15 months? And I'm not sure if that, is necessarily the way to, I think the dates ought to match up. In other words, if we're starting today, we're going to cover cost, but if it were back paying, then we need to say we're paying for services that have already been provided. Right. So that's what, and I don't know that we need to be, here's $350,000, and if you can provide an invoice from a year ago, then we'll repay for that. We need to come out and say that if that's the fact. I just don't want to get in trouble with the federal government over the payments out of CDBG money. Can you answer that question?
Yes, Christy Metcalf, Deputy City Attorney. If you look at number 50, also on the agenda, it's a similar item. It's worded the same way. What this is reimbursement for expenses that were incurred during the height of the pandemic by this particular organization.
That's what I would prefer to amend it to say to reimburse for expenses during the pandemic and pay for expenses from the date of this order through this 31st of December.
Councilman Foot, is it your pleasure that be within the heading?
What's that? I mean,
is it your pleasure for that to be in the heading?
Yeah, I'd like to have that in there if we can do that, if you can put that sentence in.
Legal, is there any objection to that?
I think amending the heading is fine.
Just, okay. All right. State your amendment.
The amendment would say.
And make it in the form of a motion.
I would say the contract will reimburse the cost of services provided between April 1, 2022 and through August the 15th of 2023 and pay for services from August the 15th until December 31, 2023.
Okay, that's the motion. Let me ask this question, legal. Would it be proper to put that within the heading or to put that or to add that as an additional whereas?
I don't think it needs to be an additional whereas. I mean, I think the order is legally sufficient as written.
Right.
But if it's the pleasure of the council to amend it, we can come up with some language to put in there.
All right. Yes, Councilwoman Lindsay.
The final whereas does say that the city of Jackson will only reimburse the Jackson Resource Center for expenses. And so I think Mr. Foot is, if we can figure out a way to get this for reimbursement in the heading, I think that will clarify all confusion about this.
All right.
No.
You say cover cost and reimbursement of costs.
Legal, if you can, I'm going to go to Dr. Omar and go to Councilman Hartley. If you all can figure out quickly how to add reimbursement for the pleasure of the council. Dr. Omar, you had your hand up for a while.
Yes, thank you, President Banks. I'd just like to comment on the services that are being provided by the Jackson Resource Center. And it's being implied that somehow they will attract more homelessness, and they will attract drug addiction, and they will attract all of these social ills, where the reality is they existed prior to the Jackson Resource Center being there, and the Resource Center helps to address those issues. So we really have to provide services where they are needed. And I would like to commend the Jackson Resource Center for being the first center of its type in the entire state of Mississippi that provides holistic services to homeless, the proper thing now is to call them the unhoused, to provide services to the unhoused to help them get back on their feet. And with regards to the overarching plan, I'd like to thank you for that history, President Banks. We all need to be reminded. And I'd also like to say that one of the strategic objectives of the mayor's administration is to get to functional zero with homelessness in the city of Jackson within the next 5 years. And it's programs like those that are provided by the Jackson Resource Center that will allow us to get there. So I'd really like to encourage the support of the Jackson Resource Center. Thanks.
Before you go, Mr. Hardy, Ms. Ptolemy White, would you please stand? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ptolemy White. Since 2017, she has been working with the city on these issues. She has been meeting with the Department of Planning, and every catastrophe that we have had, from the winter storm to the floods, she's been in Ward 6, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 7, with water, with Lowe's buckets when people couldn't flush. She has worked, and she took heat during our first term when she first started trying to do this with the community and explained it. And let me say this is just not a pass-off homeless center and people just go back to being homeless. These people are on a step progression to get into society and to have a basic working life. And we need transitional places like that. And so I want you to know that the city sees you, and we thank you, and you are one of our unsung heroes. All right. Councilman Hartley.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. You made a historical reference 5 or 6 years ago, 2018, 2017, 2020, 2019, how that we put a plan in place. I wasn't here doing that plan. But I would say this, when I came on 2 years ago, we had a couple people walking around homeless on Highway 80. Now the place is inundated, major building has been burned down, homicide, etc. So I think it's time we change that plan. I think it's time we look at a reality that this is not 2017 when things were a lot more stable. Right now, we have a lot more homeless folks in our communities. And the thing I'm simply asking is this, let's spread the love. Don't put it in the poorest and blackest parts of town. Find another ward. Mr. President, perhaps someplace in your ward.
I'm sure.
Well, please find that, because I think Capitol Street, if you drive up and down Capitol Street, you will see the trails. You'll see the litter, you will see the trails. And now, and again, and I appreciate Councilwoman Lindsay for making the reference. Yes, this is the facility on Langley, and that's a successful facility. I have taken someone around there and said, hey, man, look, this place can get you on the right track, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with supporting it. I do remember when this resource center came over and approached Poindexter Park, and the lady you just introduced, it was a unanimous no. no for the development of some type giant footprint where the homeless could be fully serviced. It was a no from that community. And I'm simply asking, number one, if you're going to proceed with this, get all sides involved. Get the public sentiment, because it is going to affect my ward, and I want to hear what the people are saying. Do they want it? And do they want do they want more traffic along the Capitol Street corridor, Capitol Street, Robinson Road corridor? And again, I know we're off the subject because this is talking about this other facility, but in lieu of having a footprint, a map, a guideline that's up to date dealing with today's issues, then I think it's relevant that we have that discussion. Again, put it in another ward.
All right, just quick, and are you, the procedure of this body when it comes to those things is that we have a public hearing on record. I'm gonna say it again. There was a public hearing on record concerning this. I would be surprised to know anybody that said no recently at whatever meeting you're discussing that was here that said yes at the time we had the public hearing on record that's reflected in our minutes. Mayor?
Yeah. One, I just want to say that I respect the concerns and consideration of your wards and the things that you have to consider. I do want to make you aware of a few things. One, the issue of homelessness and trying to get to a functional zero level of homelessness in the city has been a nominated issue in the administration. Chloe, her team, and I have been in discussions about this over the last 2 months, I would say. And part of that process of getting to a functional zero, which essentially means that no one is homeless on the street for more than 30 days, other than by election, right? If they elect to do so, and you know, once we get a proper number and understanding of the count of homelessness, and what I mean that the point in time count that cities typically do is insufficient, right? There are a lot of gaps with the point in time count. One, you don't get an accurate picture of what homelessness looks like in your city. And then two, you don't disaggregate the data to understand who is homeless because of a lack of housing, who is homeless for a lack of services, whether it's an issue of mental health, addiction, any number of things. And so we are working diligently to better understand that so that we can get to the functional zero and respond appropriately. But getting to the issue that y'all are talking to, the term actually for this is called NIMBYism, where it's called, it is a national term, not in my backyard, where people don't want to see these type of programs. And the reality is that homelessness isn't usually a response of the city dictating where a homeless population will reside. Their conditions dictate for them where they will reside, where their services are dictate where they will reside. They choose the community based on their circumstance and where they find themselves. And if we can't provide the appropriate services for them, NIMBYism, if you don't want these type of services in your backyard, then you should get used to homelessness in your front yard, all right? That is the reality, is that if you don't provide these programs in your backyard, then ultimately we will continue to get used to homelessness in your front yard. I do see it as a problem. I do not believe that we need to speak about the issue of homelessness as if they are a parasite or a nuisance on us. We should speak about it in terms of our commitment to respond to this human crisis and how we're going to provide services to lift them up out of this challenge. And so I will say that Chloe has been working diligently on a number of things, not only with organizations like the one that's before us, but she's looking at plans for transitional housing. She's looking at a number of things that we're going to bring to you. And I believe that, quite honestly, we don't solve the issue of homelessness because we don't fundamentally believe that it can be solved. And I do believe that it can be solved. We just have to put the resources, we have to commit the time to do it.
All right. Thank you. Let me allow this. Ms. Patamas White, if you could come and address to explain. I also believe she has a building in your ward on Greenway. And if you could find some property in my ward, please. But just for the sake of introduction, Ms. Patamas White, and then we'll come to you, Mr. Harley. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Patamas White, founder, executive director of Jackson Resource Center. It has been a long road to assist individuals. I didn't choose this road. God chose this road for me. If I had my way, I'd be flying all over the world in my own private jet, doing my own thing. But God chose this road for me. We started bringing awareness to the homeless issues in Poindexter Park back in 2012. We were in that park every Sunday, rain, shine, sleet, or snow, trying to assist individuals with no resources. We not only saw change in individuals with no resources, but we found out what it was that they wanted. And not everyone on the street is homeless because they want to be homeless. We've encountered doctors and nurses and everybody that may have had one bad accident that landed them in a place they did not want to be. So this has been a road that we had about 2 rows here today of tenants from Langley. They've come from under the bridges. They've come from burned out buildings. They've come from family members just exiling them because of age. Homelessness has a lot of different faces, but the only one we seem to really put on Front Street is the one that's mental illness and or drug addiction. But there are so many other avenues and people that are homeless. Most of the ones, we've got 3 families right now at Langley. One is a gentleman and a young lady that come from, I think, Macomb. He was working. They got together. She got pregnant. 2 different races. Family exile, both of them. He lost his job. So they ended up in Jackson looking for resources. People are going to come to Jackson because it's the capital city. And they're looking for Jackson to have the resources they need to change their situations and circumstances. So this family, 21 years old and 26 years old, they're homeless, but they're not on drugs. They just need a hand up. They need somebody in the community to say, hey, we will walk with you and help you get that foundation that you need so that you won't be chronically homeless for the rest of your life. Those are the individuals we see. We have brought before this council a model that's working in San Antonio, Texas. We have brought before this council, we've taken it before. Yes, there are about 5 people in the West Jackson community that have a resounding no to what we're doing. But at the offer of taking these individuals to San Antonio on our dime, I got a resounding no. At the offer of taking certain council members, at the offer of even talking to certain council members, I've called your office several times to try to get a meeting.
I'm sorry. Did you call me? Did you call me?
Your office.
Did you call me?
I don't have your number.
They have my number.
But my
Ms.
colleagues
White,
have
if
called
you may
you.
continue, then I will recognize you, Mr. Harley.
But we brought this model because there are so many cities across the United States that are looking at this model and patterning after this model. And we're doing the same thing because it's proven to work. We are taking individuals who have nowhere, giving them somewhere, in hopes that this will help bring up the property values, the community morale, and everything else in the West Jackson area. We're not coming in to just throw something up and leave out. I personally am invested in West Jackson. My businesses have been in West Jackson. I went to school at, oh, y'all chill, Provine. I'm a Provinian. That's
You was
right,
on the
Ram
road.
City. That's right. So I'm invested in West Jackson. I'm not a person that's on the outside coming in. I'm here, and I'm here to stay. Thank you.
Mr. Hartley?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to comment on the San Antonio angle, and we've had this discussion during that meeting several years ago, and that was after your study. We had a meeting where we met with Poindexter Park, and she presented, and it was a resounding no from that meeting. And one of the things that was brought up in that meeting, actually, it was several meetings. One was at Jackson State, the other one was over off Capitol Street. Okay, and both of them was the same results. But the San Antonio angle, San Antonio is has a stable environment, billions being brought in with the military. You have the Alamo, the Riverwalk. You have all kinds of things there to keep a stable community. We're not stable. We have elderly folks over there that are losing their homes. We have folks that our houses are being burned down across the street. The property values dropping. We need help.
We're here to offer the help.
Excuse me.
Let him finish. Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
The folks, poor and blacks in this area need help. They're taxpaying citizens. They need help. They need someone advocating for them and someone coming down to them, speaking to them and saying, hey, how can I help you? How can I help get that property cleaned up across the street? How can I help the potholes? How can I help the crime? We need help. And I'm not unsympathetic to the plight of the homeless, but you just mentioned a family from out of town. We're losing our families. We're losing our tax base here in our city. And if we're not careful, we'll lose these streets and we'll have less and less money in order to provide the services for the folks that are still here. So it's not that I'm not unsympathetic, but I do know this. Every time you build something, for instance, the attraction with Capitol Street is you got Stu Pot, you have other folks, Capitol Street and Gallatin, the homeless, they talk. They may talk in another state. Hey, go to Jackson. They got this, this, and this. And they're attracted. And you build one more other thing, the talk is still going to continue, and then you'll build something and that's going to attract more. What I'm trying to get is the focus recentered on protecting our communities, growing them. Several years ago, when that study was done, kids could still play at Poindexter Park. Now they dare not play at Miss Pittman's Park. Why? Because there are folks there hanging out there waiting for the weekend, a meal there, and they congregate, and everybody come out and feed them and so forth. And it's a temporary thing. But during the other times, there's crime going on. Folks can relieve themselves anytime, any place they want to. I mean, and so there's an impact on the communities when we start spreading this. And so I just think that maybe now it's time for an updated town hall meeting so we can get this thing out. And perhaps we need to look at an updated homeless plan and where this is going to be taking our communities.
All right, Councilwoman Lindsay.
Back to the point at hand, Mr. Banks, I was wondering if legal ever got the proposed amendment for this order.
Legal.
Yes, to the title. It would say with the Jackson Resource Center to provide reimbursement for eligible expenses from CARES Act funds received from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and so on.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Clerk, did you get that, or would you provide it to the clerk, legal?
Yes.
Okay. This has been moved and properly second on the amendment. All those in favor of this amendment?
Aye.
All right, item passes. All those opposed? All right. Item passes 5-1. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes. Mr. Hartley, tell your nays, come see President Banks and we can have a conversation.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
I said, tell your NAY people to come see me. and we can have a
My NAY people, I'm sorry,
The-
Mr. President.
The people
what
that
is
said
the-
no.
No to what?
Yeah. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right.
And Mr. Stokes probably would say the same thing.
Well, he's not here. Item passes 5-1. Next item.
Environmental racism all over again.
Order authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Mississippi Urban Research Center, MERC, to serve as consultant for the city of Jackson to conduct evaluation assessment for the W.K. Kellogg Foundation funded project, Economic Pathways to Human Dignity, Building Occupational Opportunities and Economic Growth.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have 5 and 1 abstention. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Armstrong Company to relocate the employee clinic and conference room, the Department of Personnel Management, the Department of Human and Cultural Services, the Department of Public Education and Government Communication, and the Department of Park and Recreation from 3645 Highway 80 to 633 North State Street.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so we have 5 and 1 abstention. Next item.
Order authorizing the city of Jackson to enter into an agreement with the business systems and consultants for the installation of a shelving system and related services for 633 North State Street.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the city of Jackson to enter into an agreement with Metro Communications and Utility Company for the installation of fiber and related materials and services for 633 North State Street.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute the contract and related documents with the Bean Path to use CARES Act funds received from the Department of Housing and Urban Development to prepare, prevent, and respond to the coronavirus for Community Development Block Grant in the city of Jackson.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Foote?
Yeah, this item has that same, if you look at the memorandum, contract will cover costs of services beginning 1 April 2022 through December 31. Is this, has Bean Path got past invoices that they need to be reimbursed for?
They're not a contractor.
I thought this was the Bean Path.
Yeah, the Bean Path is a tech campus that they are.
Right, I
creating.
understand what the Bean Path
Yeah.
is. Okay, but the city of Jackson will only reimburse the Bean Path for expenses included but not limited to. So my question is this, should the contract go all the way back to April 1 of 2022?
Correct, because the CDBG funds have to tie back to COVID. So they have to identify eligible expenses associated with COVID at the peak of COVID. So we go back to April to reimburse for expenses related to COVID.
I'd like to have that same language. I recommend we
I-
have that same
I
language.
agree.
Okay.
All right.
I'm trying to, are you asking for an amendment and?
Yes.
Amend the title as we
Okay.
just did in the last one, where it says reimburse, so there's no confusion thinking that we're trying to cover something that.
So the Christy Metcalf, Deputy City Attorney, the amendment would be to provide reimbursement for eligible expenses from CARES Act funds.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we amend the title as stated by the Office of the City Attorney. Clerk, did you get that? Okay, all right. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have 5 and 1 abstention. Now we have the item on the floor as amended. Are there any other questions or comments? Here now, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have 5 and 1 abstention. And the item passes. All right, next item.
Order revising the fiscal year 2023 budget of the Department of Planning and Development.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase order to outsource environmental review clearances for all grants through the Department of Planning and Development between the City of Jackson and Gibco Environmental LLC.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Hartley.
Yes, Ms. Dobson. This particular environmental, is it going to be an environmental consulting company that you're hiring, or is it local, or can you tell me something about the company itself?
So all of your HUD money, before it can be spent, you have to do various levels of environmental review. And so it's a local environmental review company that will allow us to expedite our programming. It's a part of the restructuring of housing and community development.
I see. Can you tell me a little about the company itself? Is it a minority company here in Jackson?
It's not a minority company.
Okay, because I know there are minority environmental consulting folks in Jackson. I was just wondering why we didn't perhaps use them.
Perhaps the quote was too high. We go with the best. But I will tell you, there will be an agenda item for LIRA. So environmental reviews and LIRAs for lead inspections for our rehab programs. That is a minority contractor, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Oh, abstentions, so 5 and 1 abstention. Next item.
Order authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding between Visit Jackson and the City of Jackson to fund a beautification project by installing wayfind signage from the King Edward Hotel down to Ferris Street and from Ferris Street to the Convention Center, as well as from the Westin Hotel to the Convention Center.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Next item.
Order authorizing payment of full and final settlement of all claims against the City of Jackson in the matter of Terry Funches and Josephine Funches versus the City of Jackson, Mississippi in the County Court of Hinds County, Mississippi, First Judicial District, Civil Action Number 17-CV-02954.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second on this item. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item passes unanimously. Colleagues, I believe item 20, during work session, I did say that I would place this in Finance Committee for review and further justification. But it has come to my attention as well that this was time sensitive. And so, if it is the will of this body to put this item on the floor, we can do that based on the recommendation from the administration. I will say that surrounding some of the things concerning this, that there have been some grave concerns from colleagues. But if the administration would like for us to place this on the floor, we can do that, and we'll end up discussing this openly.
Yeah, I would ask if you are willing to put it on for discussion purposes only so that I can provide some clarity.
All right.
Order authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the 311 mobile application subscription with City Source, Inc.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved as second. Is this for discussion only, colleagues? Is that what I'm hearing? Or we just got on the floor?
It's on the floor.
Okay, all right, it's on the floor. All right, Councilwoman Lindsay.
I think some of the concerns yesterday, Mr. Banks, you pointed out were just some of the, we only had one invoice. There was some confusion. I think the word is confusion about this order and the documentation. So I would be very open to hearing from the administration on this item, and maybe we can get some clarity.
Now, in terms of the documentation, I don't know if one of my colleagues have more on that, but what I can share is, I think there was some concern about this originating from IT, and I wanted to share.
Historically, these items are IT items.
Yes.
And the precedence that's set because it's an app. But then I think the other problem is, 2 years ago, we did an order for a new app, and it passed, and we never seen it.
I
Which
think
was
that-
supposed to discontinue this one.
Yeah.
This why City Source, this one never came into play.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and I'll go and say it on the record, is that this is invoiced to Crystal Watkins.
I don't know who Crystal Watkins is.
Crystal Watkins is an IT.
Okay.
Who gets the check?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
So Crystal Watkins works in IT, and generally, a lot of the technology-related services are invoiced to the IT department.
Which means IT did what? The negotiations and everything concerning. It was not done with 311. Andy Boone, nobody in his department had to do with it. This is traditionally IT item.
So, and IT has actually paid for certain services, right? I think they're different layers. So the renewal that IT paid for, in fact, there were 2 renewals that IT covered. This was a new software upgrade. Now, and we've talked about, I talked about the tech fund being constrained. This is where, departments would have to identify funding within their budgets to pay for some of the upgrades. I showed you where, tech fund is. And so this is an upgrade that was needed by 311, or else their services would be impacted. We were able to identify funding that would support the expense. And so that's why it was placed under constituent services.
What about the item that passed 2 years ago?
If I'm
Purchasing
remembering,
another app.
if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that was under Fred.
It still passed.
Yeah, I would.
And this was discontinued.
I don't
This
know
was
if-
discontinued as a result of. That's why the payment hadn't been made.
I don't know about the discontinuation, so forgive me for not having that information. We can track that down. I think Tori is coming forward to share something on that.
The service hadn't been paid since, well, according to Chris Gray on the record yesterday, since 21. This says 22. Yes. Oh, well, Councilwoman Lindsay.
Well, I just want to also point out, Mr. Banks, there was confusion about the fact that on the 10-point data sheet, it says the cost is $28,800.
And in the order?
And then the order is for $14,400.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of confusion.
Tori Martin on behalf of the Office of the City Attorney. I can't speak to the order. We did give this order legal sufficiency. It was based on the fact that there were 2 invoices attached. It was our understanding we were only paying for one of those 2 invoices. So we had 2 invoices. I wanted the second one didn't get uploaded. But we had an invoice that was from February of 22 and an invoice that was from March of 23. So it was our understanding we were paying for the March of 23 invoice, which was $14,400. And that's so when we reviewed the agenda item, that's what we were reviewing it for, was for that one payment of $14,400 from the March of 23 invoice. I do know that the 10-point data, I agree that it's incorrect. For us, sometimes people just don't update the 10-point data sheet, and so we did not require them to make any modifications to the 10-point data sheet. I also was unaware that there was another company that was performing this same service.
I think we have clarification on that.
Okay.
Fidelis just notified me there was a merger and the company was bought out. And I think that's why you see this company again, is because I think the one we may have transitioned to was bought out by the one that we were previously with. And so that's why you see this name reemerge.
All right. So this has come up before. Colleagues, as we go through our agenda, the cover page, it has a stamp that says Office of the City Attorney. Majority of the items have a signature and a date. Now, all of them do have the attachment with the city attorney's signature. And I don't know who reviews this, but normally, like if you go through your book right now, you could see like item 33, you could see 7/29, the date, and then you see SM. So I approved that with Sandra Monk here. You will see the signature, but then there are items, especially items that have come up recently with question where that signature has not been executed.
I just want to make sure I understand what document you're talking about. Are you talking about legal sufficiency, or are you talking about on the order itself? Okay, so so I review directly items that come from the city council, from the CAO, and from the mayor's office.
So when you review,
If I review a document directly, you won't see a signature or anything on the actual order itself. What I execute is the legal sufficiency, and that's because those items come directly to me and they go directly to they go through my office.
yeah, just as common practice, I think what will help this body historically, on the cover page, it just makes a whole lot, and makes us feel a whole lot safer to see that there's a signature there. If not, all those items always come. And if you notice, and if you go back and look at the videos, the items that have the most questions are the ones that don't have that signature on the cover page, because that says that the actual order has been reviewed. And so, for example, there's no signature there. You see 14,400, and then on the 10-point data sheet, you see 28,000. And so that says, okay, I know ain't nobody in legal seen this, because if somebody had saw the order itself, they would have caught that mistake.
Right. I saw the order itself. I directly reviewed the order myself in my office. And I have never executed the actual agenda item in my office. So anything that comes directly to me, so most items come to me through an attorney that's assigned to the department in my office. When that happens, that attorney is signing off on the order itself before it routes to me. If you ever look at the legal sufficiency document, you typically are going to see where it's signed by that attorney and then it's signed by me. I'm the last signature. Like I said, the difference is when there's an item that routes directly to me, one, I typically receive those items by email. That is my preference. And two, I typically, once I give it legal sufficiency, I forward that email to my I forward that email to Yolanda Managing in my office, and she prints and then literally signs it and uploads it for review. But I have no problem adding those stamps to my orders going forward. But I did review this order. I want to make it clear. I reviewed the order. I saw the invoices. I had 2 invoices. We believe that the March 2023 invoice is what was being paid. And so we gave it legal sufficiency based on that amount. I do acknowledge that we saw that the 10-point was wrong, but we did not go back to correct it.
Councilwoman Lindsay.
If you had 2 invoices, it would have made some sense, but I only have 1.
Okay, so we had 2 invoices. I think they had mistakenly left on an old invoice. And so for us, we knew it was the May 2023 invoice, but I would defer because all we're checking for is to make sure that we have sufficient supporting documentation. And so we knew we had sufficient supporting documentation.
Yes, Councilwoman Lindsay.
Yes, just very quickly. I want to also add, though, that I think a 311 app is important. And I really like the idea of having one. And so we just need to get comfortable with this money, and then we can I'm comfortable if this is fully explained and we all understand it and know that I just didn't have an extra invoice. You know, I do support this because we need a 311 app for our constituents.
Yeah, I agree. I support it as well. I am in strong disagreement, however, with moving a technology function within a department, because that means that departments in some point might say, okay, well, I'm gonna deal with the technology of my phones, and those items come. I think that technology items should be technology items. Public work items should be public work items. There are some situations that I am very uncomfortable with that we have not spoken about on the record, and I'm trying to keep from bringing that up on the record. And I think that those are concerns within this body because of how this was built. But if we want to continue this, we can, or we can put this in committee. I would say put in committee because the budget presentation for constituent services coming up. I am requesting that IT comes back for that budget presentation because there were things that we did not say on the record nor discuss with problems in IT that brings red flags when I see this, especially when it goes against the grain. Now, if we want to continue this, because there's a statute. Yesterday, Mr. Gray said some things on the record that were not accurate after I asked him several questions. So, colleagues, if you all want to take this up for a vote, we could take it up for a vote, or we could put it into committee. Yes, sir, Mr. Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my question is, so we got started with this application went live on April 5th of 2018, it says. So we started paying, did we pay for that, I assume?
From my understanding of the order, yes, we started paying for it then.
So we paid for it for 2018. I assume we must have paid for it 2019. And then it says, whereas the subscription for the application expired on January 11th, 2021. So I guess our citizens couldn't access the app. Is that correct? So they couldn't access the app after they expired?
That I cannot answer. I would have to defer to IT or constituency services to answer that question. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
So let's assume that it expired and we couldn't access it. So we didn't have, the citizens didn't have access to it until maybe the next year. I don't know. Then it says, it's asking, therefore, the mayor be authorized to execute an agreement for the January 22 subscription period. Did they access it during? I sure as heck don't want to pay for a subscription in 22 if we didn't access it in 22. And that, okay, so then it says, I mean, I'm all for having the access to it, but if we didn't have access to it for an extended period of time, we sure as heck shouldn't pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. I'm not going to vote for paying for it if we didn't get access to it, if the citizens didn't have access to it. I just trying to find out when it was actually in service where our citizens could access it.
Yeah, and just for the record, Rock Solid is the name of the company. The order we did was not Rock Solid.
So think, and there are about 3 names that are connected. Granicus is one of them, right? Yeah.
21, and you weren't here, sir.
Right, yeah.
But 21, that was not it. And Keisha Sanders made a proposal, and it came from Fred at the time, and it was neither one of these companies. We could go back and check the record, but there are some, I will say it again, if you look at these dates, and you look at the time that this is, because I got the app on my phone, you look at the time that this has been suspended, and considering other circumstances, I mean, I'll call for the vote if you want to.
President Banks,
Yes.
let me just say, there are a couple of clarifications, right? You're saying this is an IT function.
It is.
A subscription that a department has for software is not necessarily an IT function. If it's a subscription, which means that
precedent set on our items historically is that these items has always been presented by the Department of Finance and Administration, which was the division of IT.
okay, and that has changed, as Mr. Malambeka stated, that the subscriptions that departments are paying for that relate directly to what their function is within the city, such as 311 and constituent services, have now been relegated to those departments to pay. So that's where this, why this was submitted through constituent services because it's their subscription. It's an app for them to use. Secondly, it has been suspended. It was suspended for non-payment back when IT was responsible for paying it. So we were trying to reinitiate the app so that our residents can have access. The payment, I'm not sure about why there are two invoices, but as Attorney Martin said, the payment is for March 23. One of the problems was that we had not upgraded our, CityWorks. We had not upgraded our CityWorks subscription, so the app could not be activated. Now that we've done that, the next step is to reactivate the app. So that's, I worked with Andy Boone for about 2 years with IT just to get the CityWorks software upgraded to where we could get the app activated. So that's why all of this, I hope that addresses some of your concerns and some of the confusion around this. The app was suspended for non-payment. We couldn't reactivate it because our CityWorks subscription had not been upgraded to the current platform that they're on. We managed to get that done. I'm not sure when that was paid, but I know it was within the last year. And once we got that done, we could move to getting the app reactivated.
Okay, that does explain that part. I guess my biggest question is, how many other invoices that have been negotiated through Crystal Watkins in the IT department that may have further questions or further complexities? And with this being negotiated within the IT department, because again, the contact or the bill to is Crystal Watkins.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. All of this was negotiated by Mishi, who is no longer here. And then that's why it transferred over to Crystal Watkins in IT once Mishi retired.
But there are other items in IT where invoices are not paid and there are past due balances, for example, Munis, and things that are under investigations due to employee issues.
Well, that's a much larger discussion. I don't know that we can put Munis in the lap of any single employee, but okay, I hear you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Unless somebody from the council says, Councilman Banks, I see you need to take this up, I think it would be better to handle this in Finance Committee and IT come before us for makeup on Wednesday. There are some things that we reserved in question for particular reasons, but all those questions will be asked now.
That's, if I may.
Yes.
You know, I know my team is most concerned with the time sensitivity of this matter.
3 years ago, Mayor.
Huh?
The time sensitivity of not having something that we hadn't had for 3 years.
No, there's other time sensitivity concerns, and we talked about having an executive session on some things, and that may require an executive session conversation. But let me say this, in terms of your budget hearing with IT and the questions that you have, we have launched our investigation, and it's incomplete. There's a few other people to talk to, but I will say that I'm entirely comfortable with the council and their questions, right? And you should ask exactly what you want to ask, right? I think that when you hear from the full body as to what things happen. You know, while it's not complete, things make far more sense to me today than I started off yesterday because I didn't have an opportunity to talk. And so that opportunity is coming. I know I'm talking to code for people who don't know what we're talking about, right? And I want to move past that because I don't want to do that to people. But if what we're looking at is the possible council not voting this item down, which I think can generate some other troubles for the city, then I would just ask how quickly do we believe that it can go through a process of going through committee and getting back on the agenda? And is that something that we can live with?
So let me say this, since we here. I'm not sure if constituent service would be even funded. All right? So let me start with that. So that's step number one. Colleagues, I'll call for the vote if we want to, or I can put this into committee so that we can continue investigation.
I'm seeing a lot of curious looks up here as you make that declaration. I
Yeah,
don't know a city, and I get what the conversations are. Let me say this. My process through all of the budget discussions has been to be intentional, non-adversarial, right? No matter how much I may oppose or have concern, I will not be adversarial. I believe that we will all be responsible for informing our residents, but I will not be adversarial. I don't know a city of our size that does not have a constituent services division. I know that we get approximately 250 calls a day in 311 and to our constituent services division. I believe that our ability to respond to people without having that that mechanism of communication back and forth could potentially have catastrophic impact.
No, look, I hear you. Well, I mean, we've had several budget meetings. You did attend to one yesterday. The first couple of ones that were very important. But, you know, the initial proposal did not ask for a millage increase. And the council took time to consider when we firstly officially heard from your administration of a millage increase to achieve a raise for the fire department. It was 20 minutes before the posted deadline.
Mr. President.
And I learned of the need to tell you that
Mr. President.
5 minutes before
I
you
withdraw
heard
my
it.
second.
All right, second has been withdrawn. This item is no longer on the floor. All right, yeah, well, it's died, it's dead now. If the second is withdrawn, it's dead. So I will put this in Finance Committee. And I will request to the administration that the IT director be present Wednesday. Claims.
Order approving claims appearing at pages 625, 2 inclusive thereon, on municipal docket of claims in the amount of $2,634,215.26 for and make an appropriation for the payment thereof.
So move.
Second.
It's been moving properly second on claims. Just for the sake of the public, let me just clear up. No. So let me clear. Well, legal, can you clear up? So there are some things that are being corrected as far as procedure, and help me track right as far as procedure and making sure that we are in proper compliance with certain things. And so to make sure that things are done right, the legal department has done an omen job of clarifying and kind of removing those items until they come before us correctly. Did I say that right?
That's correct. So the actual claims docket that you have in front of you has legal sufficiency. I think, well, there was one that was proposed to you that did not contain legal sufficiency. And so the higher dollar amount one did not have legal sufficiency. The second one is the one that has legal sufficiency. So the lower dollar amount one is the one with legal sufficiency. And President Banks is correct. The lower dollar amount one is one that we have gone through and we have revised to remove certain claims that we believe were not properly presented for payment. So some of those claims, and the council clerk was on the communication with the city, but some of those claims will come back to you in the form of an order.
Councilwoman Lindsay.
That is, you explained it. There's about a $900,000 difference between the two. The one we got, Friday, and the one we got today. And so, thank you. I see a $90,000. 90, I'm sorry, 90. I really got excited.
It's just an
Thank
extra
you.
zero, Councilman Foot.
Thank you.
Mr. Banks.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Ms. Martin, in one of our meetings, it was stated that items under $5,000 were not checked by the legal department. Have those items been checked as well?
Yes. So those items have been checked.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Council, do we need time to review? I know we just received this. Mr. Mellenbecker, can you go over the larger claims, sir? Oh, I'm sorry.
That earlier, and that did not
Okay.
change.
Okay, so that did not change. All right. Thank you. Do we need time to review? We good?
We good.
All those in favor? Oppose?
I voted aye, Mr. Banks.
All right. Claims passes unanimously.
Is that a first?
That's a first because the city attorney's office is doing some good work. All right. Let's go to discussion items. I think Stokes pulled his. Hold on. All right. So I assume Mr. Hartley is gone. Say it again.
55.
Oh, okay. So 55. But this is Owens and Katoria Mark. Chief?
Good afternoon. This is Chief Armin, Assistant Fire Chief. We're talking about the
I'll just pick the mic up because you're tall. You're tall, dude.
all right. We're talking about the RFP for ambulance services. This is something we've been working on for a while. We brought it before the body, we discussed it, and now we've gotten to the point where we do have an RFP that's out that different ambulance companies can look at and go ahead and bid to provide services to the city of Jackson. I'm trying to see if y'all have any questions about it. Should I just explain more?
No, so I just want to be clear to the public because I don't know where this rumor came from that the city already executed a contract for ambulatory services. I got the call. And I'm just, just want to dispel that rumor.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I was unaware of that rumor. To be clear, the city of Jackson, this is the first time we've ever issued an RFP for ambulatory services. Historically, that has been a function of the county. This was taken on by the city due to the high number of calls and expressed concerns in terms of the timeliness or lack thereof of the response of the ambulatory services. And so we wanted to take control of our own emergency service district so that we can issue a contract, evaluate the performance of whoever wins, have certain things placed in the contract to ensure the level of service that we think that we're deserving of. And so that is why we have The council previously, I think maybe 2 years ago now, created the Emergency Service District. There was a question as to whether, because it's professional services, whether we wanted to simply just issue a contract. I directly said, no, I don't want to do that, because this is the first contract of its kind, because we imagine that there are a number of companies that want to compete for the services. I didn't want to be accused of any type of favoritism. And so we elected, even though we didn't have to, we elected to do an RFP process. So no contract has been issued. Yes, there is a live RFP. Companies can respond to it. They will be evaluated, and after that evaluation period, it will be presented to the council. I guess this is a moment where they want to know if y'all have any questions about that RFP process.
Mr. Banks.
Councilwoman Lee, then Councilman Foot.
Well, thank you, Mayor and the administration, for putting forward an RFP. I'm glad to hear that one is out. I'm still getting calls. I just heard from Representative Shonda Yates yesterday, who was concerned and wanting to know if we did put an RFP out. So I'm glad that I'll be able to tell her that we did. She was pointing to referencing a situation with a 7-year-old and the response times from AMR. So I'm just thankful that you heard the concerns of the citizens, and glad to know that this is out. Thank you.
Councilman Foot, then Councilwoman Lindsay.
Thank you. I've got a question for I guess the fire department would be the right people to pose this question to. You know, our healthcare system is layered over with third-party payers, from the federal government to insurance companies to a wide variety, to include, we've got insurance across the city as well. And so the emergency has to interact with all those payers. I'm curious, what is going to be the cost if if you can determine a cost to the actual city itself, because of all these other payers that pay for rescues and other things that go on within the healthcare system?
Okay, there's no actual cost to the city as far as providing the ambulance services. They will get their payments or their money from the customers. But there is when we look at the district, there is a 15 cent per capita payment that we would make, and that would actually go to the state, and that's for grant money that we would be reimbursed. We would get much more than that back. So it's like an investment into the district.
So our goal is just to find the most effective ambulatory service and not worry about the cost structure won't come into the equation, I guess.
Exactly, because it won't be a cost to the citizens at all. I mean, only the citizens that use the services.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Councilwoman Lindsay, and then Councilman Griselle.
Thank you. I would like to get a timeline on when you think we will have something before us to consider a contract.
Okay, I don't know exactly the dates, but they're already in the contract, so we can look them. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said contract in the RFP, yeah.
That's how that gets started.
Yeah. So they have, okay.
So the current timeline is for it to close in September, for them to do the evaluation for about 30 days, and then to bring it back to you at the end of this year. Now, when they bring it to you, though, the start time will probably still not be until January 1, because we do think that the companies are going to need time for implementation.
Do you remember the date in September?
I do not. Is
I'll look it up.
Justin?
I can go online and look it up.
Okay, I don't think Justin's on the line. He was out sick today. That's who actually did most of the drafting on this, but I think it's around September 15th, but it's all in the RFP itself.
Thank you.
Councilman Griselle.
Thank you. Just for clarity, the district is the entire city of Jackson, correct?
Correct. It's the entire city of Jackson.
And so with the provider that is already here, they will still be able to operate in the city?
They will be able to operate in the county.
In the county.
They will be able, the way that we have structured this RFP is the only way they'll be able to operate, well, unless they win, right? But what this agreement says is that we will have a main provider in the city, But what's different between what we have proposed and what the county currently has is we won't actually block anybody from coming in if we're in a situation where our provider is too busy. What currently happens with the county is if that provider is too busy, they block other providers from coming into the city. So ours will allow for, if they have a period of time where they're too busy, they can't respond, that those other providers can step in.
And who would be contacting that other provider should the winning provider's too busy?
The winning provider, I think they actually get contacted from dispatch. I would have to defer to y'all. How do they-
To eliminate this, because, you know, we've run into this problem before, can the council see the RFP?
Yes,
And
it's,
I think, you know, moving forward, one of the things, because what we don't want to do is run into a problem where there might be a group of council members that disagree with some of the things in the RFP, that when it went out, we didn't know what it,
Yeah,
when we could have had opportunity to put input and say, well, this might need to be in there, this might need to be in there.
Yeah.
And then we work on the kind of, it's your prerogative.
I will remind you, it's an executive
Yeah, and I don't
function.
have a problem.
Just know, it's
It is an
yours.
executive function.
But the thing is, if there's something in the RP that disagree with, you still got to get a majority
Yeah.
vote.
I don't, once again, my commitment to not be adversarial, right? I'm not going to go down that road, right? But what I will say is, as I said, I mean, one, that's why they're here in front of you, right? For you to ask questions like you want to see the RFP or any other questions that you have. That's why they're in front of you. You know, our only goal is to have good ambulatory services. It's not even something we directly pay for. So other than a good service, we're agnostic in terms of who does it, right?
Yeah. So what's in the RFP is the main concerns are quality care and meeting response times. And so we've got a requirement that 90% of all emergency response times are within 8 minutes and 10% of all emergency response times are within 13 minutes. We do have financial penalties for late responses. And the selection criteria is the technical proposal is 50% and then the management plan is 40%. And we are, instead of going with our traditional EBO, which we don't really think has been effective in the past, we've asked that they actually present to us their minority participation plan. So each individual responder should have their own minority participation plan.
Okay.
What's the other 10%?
The presentation.
Okay.
So the presentation is when they come in and they'll present to the evaluators.
Can y'all send that to us so that we?
I can
heard
send you the RFP itself. I don't mind emailing it to you, but it is available. It's online and it's already being published by the newspaper. The announcement is.
Thank you. All right. Question, Chief and Attorney Martin. The federal law that requires the ambulatory services when they go to emergency rooms have to stay until they are actually checked in. I think that's the big part of the problem.
You're talking about the wall now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the wall. Okay, so we are hopeful that when we do get this RFP done and someone comes in and get the bid, with what we are trying to do, we're trying to make sure that when they do the contract's going to say that they have to do certain things in order to prevent being on that wall so long, okay? So that has to come with the contract.
I'll add this. We actually asked in the RFP that they present creative ideas for how to combat that issue. What we've seen from our research, I wish Justin was on here because he did all this research. I'm just regurgitating his words. But what you see in the industry is that some of the ambulance services have decided to carry another person in the ambulance that is not necessarily an EMT, but it's somebody who can stay there on the wall. And so they can leave that person there with the person that was in the ambulance instead of having to keep the ambulance itself there. And so it frees them up if they have that extra person that's not necessarily to be riding in the ambulance. But what we've asked them to do is to be creative in their proposal.
Thank you. Mayor.
Yeah, one, I think legal for that clarification, but also the other thing that they mentioned earlier is, having the ability for outside agencies to support will also help with that issue. And the fact that we don't have that ability now not only leaves that person on the wall, but there's no other agency that you can reach out to outside of this emergency service district, in the current circumstance to support people as they are needed.
Called the Helping Hands Clause. It's a note that Justin had for me that I just realized.
All right, we'll see it when you send it. All right, next item, 58. Councilman Hartley. Bobby Rush.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to get another update on this project. I know that there's a lot of pressing projects, but Mr. Rush had reached out to several council members, at least that I know, and expressed some health concerns and other things, and we would like to see this thing done. So I'd like to track this closely. Can you give me the latest update on that?
We're working on getting that second quote. I do have a plan B if I can't find a second quote.
Rob, if you could provide a date. The reason why is because there are a lot of national artists, along with Bobby Rush, that want to plan something when the sign goes up.
Okay.
Almost similar to what we did with Charles Evers. So there are a lot of people that.
So essentially, once he gets it, you don't want him to just put it up there without the ceremonial process. So
Correct.
I got you.
And we need to know it because he wants to tell a lot of these national artists, and they're going to do something very big.
Okay.
Councilman Griselle, can you hand that bag to Councilman Banks?
It's got my name on it.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. Okay. Distractions. Item 59.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I titled this Prevention of Another Garbage Crisis, What RFP Actions Are Being Taken. And this comes from a lot of input from my folks that said, basically, during that period of time, they recognized it as a failure of government. Regardless of executive branch or legislative branch, they said it's a failure of government. So since we have time now, I just want to get an update on what are we doing to prevent another government crisis. And, just want to find the status of it. Where are we at? We've gone through, April, May, June, July, August now, 4 months. So, we don't need to be answering that question again. Why is our government into a failure mode and we don't have folks picking up our garbage? So I'd like to get an update on that. Thank
The
you.
update is that we have a pending case before the circuit court, and we are unable, or we do not think that it is legally prudent to issue an RFP when there is a case against the city right now based on the present one. And the court can make a decision any day. It's in their hands to make that decision. And if we come to a conclusion that we're going to issue an RFP before that ruling, then we will bring it back to you. But we're waiting on the court to issue its opinion against the city.
All right.
One way or the other.
All right, thank you. So let me ask this question. Legal, if you could say this on the record for me. This is an appeal. This is an appeal appealing a authorized vote of the council. Am I correct? Yeah, next time just take the mic with you and just sit down with it.
Yes, this is an appeal, and this is, there is a prior case on this, if anybody, is interested, but I think it's Sunland Publishing is a case where this also happened, where there was an appeal. This is actually how we ended up with the Mississippi Link as our vendor for publication, but, and in that case, the city of Jackson lost, and so there is incredible liability for.
Let me ask this question.
Okay.
Does government stop because there's an appeal?
No, government does not stop. We
All right,
still, yep.
Let me ask some questions. Whoa. 5 months. something has to be presented. Is it the intention on the record of the administration to put forth a contract on a 3-year-old now RFP?
It is the intention of the administration to listen to the court's response and make determinations accordingly.
The precedence of this council is that we have not stopped governing business because we have had several items that were appealed before. We have never paused and said we're not going to take anything up because of an appeal. If the city attorney's office,
We have had injunctions in the past against us that have stopped us from moving forward.
if the city attorney's office would give
The city
council-
attorney's
Hold on,
focus.
I'm asking a question. Would give the council clarity based on precedent, based on governing authority, and based on authority of this council. Because at the end of the day, there won't be a contract, and we don't need another standoff because we need the majority vote of the council.
I do not think this is a question for the legal department. And the reason why is because the focus of the legal department right now is a lawsuit that is against us, and it is also negotiating with the Department of Environmental Quality for penalties that we are facing. We are facing millions of dollars in penalties.
Absolutely.
And so the focus of the legal department is negotiating those penalties and combating the litigation that is facing us.
Let me just say this for the record. I think that it would be well deserving for the citizens of Jackson to see us work together in concert. And I think that the truth is, this previous RFP is 3 years old.
And this Office of the City Attorney expanded numerous resources on that RFP. We spent a lot of time on that RFP. We spent a lot of time drafting that RFP. We spent a lot of time negotiating that agreement. I don't have any more resources.
If I can finish without interruption, I think in the spirit of working together, Richards can submit to another RFP. I just think just doing one would be good faith for us to rebuild our relationship and not hash down this road.
Yeah.
Let me finish. The council bent and compromised to make sure garbage got picked up.
Yeah.
Whether it's whomever, I will say publicly, to prevent this again, we have 5 months. I don't think that it would be a bad thing to negotiate with whomever. You are the executive. You could talk to Richard. You could talk to him and say, listen, you see the situation we are in. Sometimes leadership is just leadership. You see the situation we are in. We need to reissue RFP because we don't want to end up here again.
Yeah.
We can't afford to end up here again. And there are so many other things that we are now unsure of what the citizens will pay, right? We are in budget season. I am trying to do this without being adversarial as well. But this is the time where I'm just going to say this, I've been holding back colleagues from wanting to slash the whole legal department. I've been holding back colleagues from wanting to slash your whole budget. I'm trying to work in good spirit. I am bending. I'm willing to bend. In the words of my friend, Dr. Jerry Young, he who won't bend will soon be broken. We have to compromise. And so, sir, garbage is being picked up. All we're asking, you don't have to make any comment because we got to move on. All we're asking,
No, I want to respond.
all we're asking is please consider doing an RFP. I'm sure that if you say, Richards, look, there have been some relationship issues. We're trying to work together with the city of Jackson. We're trying to be unified. Could you drop this and let me issue another RFP? I'm sure you can ask. I'm sure you can request so that we can just move on and not have another divisive year.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate your impassioned plea. I received that. And I will be clear that it is not our effort to be divisive. It is not our effort to prolong anything or certainly put our residents in a compromised position. To be clear, it's not a compromise to ask for another RFP because that's what the council's been asking for day one. We also know that there is some strategy in asking for another RFP. We also know that the court itself in our last hearing said to us that if you issue another RFP, the cost is going to be extremely high, and you're going to have. And so when we're having, I appreciate you connecting this to budget because to the firefighters, you don't have a dispute about whether to give you a pay raise. What you have is a dispute of how to give you the pay raise. What is the most prudent way of doing it, right? We simply believe that, you know, shutting down constituent services, this is not an adversarial position, I'm just telling you what the positions are. Shutting down constituent services is not the way to do it. Closing the zoo is not the way to do it. We don't believe that that helps us as a city or many of the other issues that we're dealing with. We have suggested that maybe doing a millage increase, which will require residents to pay somewhere between the neighborhood of $20 to $40 annually in order to achieve your raise, versus shutting down these departments. And we're talking about a garbage contract that if we do another RFP, will likely cost the residents $40 to $60 a month more than what they're paying. So the difference between $20 to $40 a year versus we're talking about decisions that ultimately are going to require, by doing another RFP, because we know gas prices have gone up, all of CPI and all those things. CPI is always going to be just a matter of what is produced to us, but gas prices and the cost of acquiring trucks and all those things have skyrocketed in the market. And so we know that if we do another RFP, this is a paid-for service. And so it's not coming out of some obscure budget line that we'll just make an adjustment for. This is going to come directly from the residents. And so, you know, if we're going to talk about these things respectfully, I listen to you. I think that we have to consider what these costs are. When we talk about not wanting to burden residents with cost and not explaining to them that an RFP is going to burden you with another cost. Now, I don't want to seem like I'm taking a position because it is my responsibility as the mayor of the city to defend the city in any legal proceedings or to stand on the position of what is in the best interest of the city. And so I don't know how that hearing will come out. I certainly would not talk to Richards, who's represented by counsel, about dropping their lawsuit. I'm sure our city attorney's office, who represents us, can talk to them about, you know, whether they would drop a lawsuit or not. I don't know what their position is. They seem to think that it is in their best interest, and that's why they filed it, right? I'm not opposed to reaching out to the court, having our attorney reach out to the court and see if we can get a timeline of when the court might want to respond. Maybe that's where it helps us. But this is in the court's hands. We have not asked for any continuances, to my knowledge. We have not asked for a delay in the ruling or an extension of time. And so we're waiting on the court to make a ruling.
All right, Councilman Harley.
Yes, and I thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. The reason I put this on the agenda is because we hadn't heard really any credible plan moving forward. And I remember going out, picking up waste, and people saying, you guys have failed. You failed in your role as government leaders. You failed. And I couldn't help but agree, because there are government processes that are there to prevent the failure. I'm not sure the outcome of a new RFP, but I do know that is a part of the government process to ensure fairness, the lowest price, and getting the services that we need. And so I don't want to be in another situation where I'm explaining to these folks, oh, there are legal reasons why we're back here today doing the same thing. There's a reason we're doing the same thing we were doing a year ago. And I think that it would behoove both the legislative and the executive branch to look at this and as the president said, do some kind of compromise, but we have to move forward. People are not going to stand for this to happen again, regardless of our excuses, regardless of the reasons.
Absolutely.
They're not going to tolerate it this time. So we need to be getting on it, and we need to be getting on it right now.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And to be clear to the people, the administration has never delayed. The administration, when it came to the first RFP, like I said, we declined all of them because it was not, all of them were significantly higher than what we had been paying, and so we went with a fourth-year option with Waste Management. And in the process, while we went with that fourth-year option, we began on the RFP because we knew that that was the last year. And we started, and we went with what was the lowest negotiated price and brought it to the council. And for your justified reasons, so the reasons you hold, you voted against FCC, right? And so you talked, and the critique there, because you mentioned this a moment ago, was that you felt like you didn't have enough input, insight, view of the RFP, and you were concerned, right? And so what the administration then did was walked you through step by step of the timelines, what the scoring matrix was, when certain people would be evaluated, the cone of silence, the fact that we would do blind scoring so that nobody would know who the companies were. And we reported to you, and we had 3 community meetings to report to the community so they would know each and every step of that process, right? And then after we did that, speaking of working together and speaking of what the RFP is in my purview, I didn't make a selection on who would win. I presented it to you based on those scores, right? Let's make sure we're clear on this. And I want to be clear. This is not, I'm not trying to be adversarial, but we're having a conversation which we probably should be talking with each other on the sideline. Right.
Let me say this for the sake of time, because we got a 2:30 Public Works, and we could take this up in Public Works.
Well, I want to finish my statement.
At the end of the day, out of all of that, regardless we're wrong or right, a no vote was still a no vote, and that has to be respected. And I think in his process, when he talks about process,
I'll let y'all finish. Can I finish? Can I finish?
I preside over this meeting.
I know, and I'm asking a question. Can I finish? Would
Please,
it be
quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So after we presented you the raw scores, right?
Right.
Something I could have just selected because I'm the mayor, and that's my responsibility. After I presented you the raw scores, you said, we want to eliminate the once-a-week options, and we're going to leave the 2 twice-a-week options. And the 2 twice-a-week options were twice a week with a bin, meaning with a garbage can for every resident, and twice a week without a garbage can for every resident. And out of those 2 options, I selected the one which was $13 million cheaper. You just said, Councilman Hartley, we want to go with what's cheaper for the resident, right? What you said, cost. You said the one that's lowest. You just said the lower cost. That's what you said in a new RFP.
In a new RFP, it will always be judged. RFP is always judged on the lowest and the best.
Yeah.
And that's what going forward. Look, I'm not looking for a chronology here. I'm looking for a plan ahead.
So
what are we going to do now?
I respectfully.
Guys. Look,
Yeah, I'm not fighting.
Look, we don't need to rehash all of it, because everything you say, I will agree with. It happened. At the end of the day, when it came before the body, we said no. No mean no.
I got you.
No.
So,
No, hold.
well,
No,
first
no,
of all,
no.
I've yet to finish my statement. And
I get it.
I'm respectfully just trying to finish my statement.
You can say your statement. I agree with you. Everything that you're gonna say. You did all that kind of stuff. We went to cross. Yes, you were right. You were right. All this. You did. You bent. It came before us. We still said no.
Yeah.
No means no.
No
has to be respected.
What
the council was saying now.
Let me say
in the spirit of working together.
Let me say this. I'm in an effort to avoid confrontation. When you went through your statement, I was not rude to you. I did not stop you. I listened to that. I just simply asked for opportunity to complete.
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to be adversarial once again. I think it's adversarial to your chronology. Listen, you can't have an impassioned speech about We want to make sure that the residents are
going forward.
put in that position and not allow me the opportunity to respond. Respectfully.
We just talking about going forward, Mayor, that's all.
Yeah,
It's the-
and I just wanted to respond to that.
All right, we're just talking about going forward, that's all. We're just talking about going forward. We all disagree on the past, but all right, we're just talking about moving forward. Next discussion. Fire Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I put this on the agenda because the pay situation for the fire department is a important issue that we need to address.
Mike,
I'm
you
sorry.
keep forgetting you gotta press that button, sir.
I apologize. So I put this on as a discussion item, the Jackson Fire Department budget, and that inherent in that, the main item in the Jackson Fire Department budget is the pay for the firemen that we need to address. Obviously, it's become a big issue in the city, and I think it's important. I reached out to the state fire marshal, Mr. Mike Cheney, to talk about this and learn exactly what the particulars are at the state level that oversees the city. And he came back to me and said that right now they are going through a re-rating of the city of Jackson, which evidently they do about every 5 years. And the importance for that is that the rating is regarding ratings that come up, rating of 1 through 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, in the ability of the city to deliver fire services to make the citizens and their, not only citizens safe, but all the properties and stuff safe. And so they're going through that process now. They said it'd be through in a couple of months or all. We had the last time we were rated in 2018, we were given a 3 rating, which is, I guess, in the middle of the pack as far as being able to provide fire services. And we want to make sure and try to get that 3 rating again as we go through this. So the rating is there's people that designated as part of this rating group that goes out and checks and makes sure that we've got fire stations in the right place, that they're properly manned, that the fire hydrants are working and there's water pressure. Water pressure is a big issue to them. And I'm glad we've got some improvements going on to the, as the third party manager fixes some of these big leaks and all that will help water pressure. And so that's important that we've got to keep that in mind, as well as making sure we pay the firemen a living wage, that they can look forward to a career in the fire department. And but it's not. They said the rating. And I talked to the actual guy doing the rating. I can't remember his name, but or one of the people from the department, and they said that it would be a couple of months before they'd be able to come back to us with the rating that the city gets. So it's important that we measure up to the rating agency, so because that impacts the insurance rates that all the property owners and that whether it's commercial or residential or whatever, have to pay. So we've got to keep the 3 rating, and at the same time, we want to make sure we pay the firemen, as much as we can afford to pay them, and address the situation with. One of the things that alarmed me was the fact that we had $1.9 million in overtime pay, and I just wondered about the structure of our pay structure and how it's set up, and the council wants to get a solution to this problem, and we're trying to explore every possible way that we can do that in a constructive way, which starts with an analysis of the current situation, but also is informed by what's going on at the state level regarding Jackson's fire department. And that's my main point I wanted to make. And we got to come up with a solution, a creative solution, and explore all the different options. And I'll let Chief Owen, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, no, well, I was just gonna say that, that class goes from 1 to 10, really, instead of 1 to 5.
Oh, is it 1 to 10?
Yes,
Okay.
1 to 10.
Okay.
Yes. So, of course, yeah, we are in a class 3 rating right now, but actually we're in a high 3. It kind of goes from being a low to a high in each class, and we probably somewhere around 3.67 or something like that. And the only way to get that down is, like you said, there has to be some other things that have to be done through the city as far as the water situation, infrastructure, those types of things. But now I believe that we could get our rating down to a Class 2 if we could make sure that we have the staffing level that we need. That's where we take big hits at, is on staffing and, what was the other one, Chief? Well, yeah, the water, of course, the water, yeah. But in our situation, it's the staffing. And so if we could keep the staffing level up, we could get down to a 2, which will cause the insurance rates to go down. Yeah. Go ahead.
We heard you say something about the
State your name.
Chief Armin, Assistant Fire Chief. You talked about the overtime being at 1.9 million. We're allocated 1.2 million a year, and a lot of times we make an adjustment throughout the year to put more money there for overtime. The reason why we put that additional money there or move money for overtime is because we maintain a certain level of minimum staffing, and this is for our ISO rating. Because if we fall below that minimum staffing, then we're gonna take a hit on our rating. So the reason why we pay so much overtime is because we have so many vacancies. But those vacancies supplement the overtime payment. That's where we're allowed to pull money from those vacancies because it's still in salary line. So we can pull money from those vacancies and place it into overtime, and that compensates. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so that's the reason why we have so much overtime. These guys, whenever we fall below, then that means somebody has to work overtime. As we sit right now, we're at a point because of attrition, because we have people leaving. And a lot of them are leaving because they can go somewhere else to make more money. It's just a fact of it. And as they sit here, they do need a raise. They deserve a raise. And just like the mayor was saying, nobody here is in opposition to them receiving a raise, as far as I know. The only thing that we got a question about is where would the money come from?
So let me say this. I mean, cut you off because we got a budget meeting at 2:30. The unfortunate part about it is that you gave a presentation and then you did not present any raise, any plan, and you did not ask. That's the unfortunate part. I hear you now. But the sad part is when you sat right here last week, nothing was said about it. Yesterday was the deadline for a millage increase. Yesterday at 1 o'clock. This council said that we didn't want to increase the millage rate because there are a lot of uncertainties, and citizens have been paying an increased school bond, and schools have been closing. They've been paying high water bills, and in my ward, not having water. They've been paying now maybe an increased sewer bill and a high sanitation bill, and garbage is still not being picked up in several communities in South Jackson. There are a lot of people that can attest to that. And so at this point, we're going to achieve the raise. We're going to do the best we can to get some type of raise. But because of poor presentation at the beginning and no presentation to us at the beginning, and when we got the information, it was 30 minutes before the deadline, then now the council is basically doing what should have been presented to us. Now we got to go in and find ways to make it happen, and that's going to include cuts. It's not our fault. It's because it wasn't presented to us. So, we're going to achieve that, guys, and we're going to do the best we can because the council does control the purse strings. I'll say it again. The council does control the purse strings. I got a question. How many uncertified firefighters do we have working that have not gone to the academy?
I think that number would be approximately 20.
So we got 20 firefighters that have not gone to the academy, that have not been certified, working. Is that a liability?
No.
No, absolutely not.
Can you show that to me in documentation? I'm still waiting on the other documentation I asked for.
What type of documentation would you like?
Show me the documentation that it's not a liability for this firefighter to be going 10-8, if that's the right term, or working that has not gone to the academy. And
wait,
also
no.
the documentation I asked for on the record during your presentation that says that we are required to have so many workers. I need that in writing.
Counsel,
You can explain it. but
Can I
that's
ask you a
it.
question?
Yes, sir.
Where did you get that from, that we had so many uncertified firefighters?
I just asked the question.
I
Do
was
we have
asking
any?
you. Okay.
I just asked the question. I
Okay.
just asked the question.
So,
Because
yes,
my
that is
fear-
not
my-
illegal to have uncertified firefighters.
I get it.
Because they do it all over the state of Mississippi.
I get it. My
Okay.
fear is that you have guys that have been working and have gone to the academy. And then now there are uncertified firefighters coming straight out of high school being placed on the trucks as a method to replace guys that have been working for years, all because they want a raise.
They are not replacing guys.
Okay?
We are trying
Or-
to keep up with minimum
or-
staffing.
Are digging into your vacancies with uncertified guys that have not gone to the fire academy, which the council's gonna take and use to give these guys a raise.
And it's not that they won't be certified, it's that they are not certified now. They have up to 1 year to get certified. That is the process.
So I say
They
this
didn't,
again.
they didn't tell you everything.
Let me say this. The council controls the purse strings. We're gonna find it. We got the authority to change pay ranges. When I say change pay ranges, that means we could do a pay range change and say this person, this person, this person, change their pay range to this. And directors and chiefs and whomever get $2. So, again, that stuff wasn't presented. And we got a meeting at 2:30. Well, no, what time? 2:30? All right. So with that being said, meeting adjourned.
You did not call for closing comments.